To the September 8th Township Board Business Meeting. First on the agenda, the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda, do we have any additions or deletions to this agenda? With none, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried. All right, we have a presentation tonight from MERS, who is our retirement system. Jamie, would you like to come up? And you can change the podium if you like. I don't know if the microphone's right for you. Just have to talk into the mic so the people at home.
Okay.
Come up if you like, whatever. There's a little
I'm comfortable right here.
comfortable?
Yep.
Very good. It's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. My plan is to review the 12/31/2024 MERS annual evaluation for the township. The township gets this report every year by the end of June for the previous year. And it gives you your rates 2 years in advance. So the rates that we're looking at are your 2026 rates. And it gives you an overall funding status and overview of the plan. Feel free to stop me if there's any questions throughout the presentation. You should all have, I hope, in your board packets, a copy. Yeah? Okay. And I promise you I won't stop on every page. So the first few pages we can actually skip through. And if you can go to page 6. I'll go ahead and get the screen there too.
Thank you for that, so the people at home can
Yeah,
see.
absolutely, yes. So this is the first page that most municipalities want to review. This gives your overall funded status. So as of 12/31/23, you were 61% funded. You held at 61% for 12/31/24. We'll review in the report why you didn't see any changes and why you stayed at that funded level rather than going up or down. So no movement is a good thing. A lot of boards are interested where you stack against the other MERS municipalities. So we have about 23% of our municipalities that are between 60 and 69% funded. The majority of the plans are about 70 to 79. So you're not too far away from that average. To give you an idea of where you're at.
Do we have some below?
Yeah, of course, yep. So the next page, page 7, this is going to give you your required contributions. If you look at that first table here, you'll see that the required annual contribution for April 1st, 2026 is the 2.1 million. That is an increase of about 131,000 from your rates April 1st, 2025. The next table here, that's going to be your employee contributions. So that is the percentage of pay that your employees are paying into the plan. There was no change from 2023 to 2024
Right.
other than your Division 13, which is your union employees, and that is because you have a 10% employer cap in that division. Employer cap means that the township pays a certain portion, and after that, the employees are responsible for any additional. So you will see that rate fluctuate. Moving on to page 8, there is a point in here, if you wanted to fund the plan more conservatively, you're on a 15-year amortization at this point. If you wanted to become 100% funded in 10 years, it gives you the overall rate that you would need to pay in compared to what your required is now. So that's something that GRS, who's our certifying actuary, will give you each year. in your valuation. And a little bit about why the numbers change from year to year. So when GRS completes this report, they look for mainly these three things. Of course, it's actuarial, so there's a lot of things baked into it. But they look to see if there's any benefit changes that might have impacted the plan. Any change in the actuarial assumptions or methods that we, MERS, and GRS use. Those are some of the big ones that we've seen in the recent past. And then the difference between the experience of the plan and what those actuarial assumed experiences were. So lifetime tables, if someone draws longer than maybe we assumed, or someone passes earlier than we assumed, those fluctuations come into play. And so with that, the biggest assumption that the actuaries use is that assumed rate of return. For 2024, it was carried over from the 2023 valuation. We stayed at the assumed rate of return of 6.93%. MERS adopted, not new this year, but in 2022, what's called the dedicated gains policy. And what that says is in years where there is a market gain, if it's fiscally responsible and recommended, we will buy down that rate of return with some of those gains. For this year, although we were above the 6.93%, we weren't above it enough to buy down that rate of return by any basis points. In addition to that, the uniform state assumptions are at 7%. It's the first time that MERS has been below that assumed rate of return, so the actuaries didn't feel a need to lower that from the 6.93%. Moving to page 9. Let's see, we already talked about the dedicated gains, the experience study. That's another important actuarial piece that I'd just like to point out. At least every 5 years, or when the MERS board deems needed, we will perform an experience study. And what that is that saying, okay, the assumptions that the actuaries are using, that assumed rate of return, those lifetime tables, wage inflation, things like that, are they in line with the actual experience that we're seeing for MERS as a whole? And they make any changes if those are needed at that time. We just finished our last experience study with the 2024 evaluation, and there was no significant changes. So that's part of the reason that you're seeing your funded ratio staying at that 61%, not moving, because those actuarial changes do cause upward or downward pressure on the funded level and the required contributions. The only change that, not the only, but I guess the notable change that was made is our lifetime tables were moved from to intergenerational tables. And the actuaries did that because they're trying to measure the impact of COVID and whether or not that's going to have an impact on certain generations. So it broke it down further so that if they see a certain demographic is impacted, it's only affecting that line and not the overall generational table as a whole. So that's a little weedy, I apologize, but that was the biggest change from the experience study. The biggest topic when you look at the increased contribution, although it wasn't a lot, that you're seeing is the asset smoothing. So MERS smooths our losses and gains over 5 years. So if there was a market gain, you're going to see 1/5 of that gain realized in this valuation and then spread over the next 4 valuations. Because of that, the smooth actuarial rate of return you're seeing here, it's 3.79%, while the total market return was actually 7.28%. The reason you're seeing that 3.79% is because we are still smoothing in that negative 10% loss from 2022.
Ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
So our actuarial gains and losses, somebody lives longer than we expect or something like that, that's in particular to our plan, right?
Yes.
The investment returns, how are our funds compared to your book of business for MERS?
So the 3.79, the 7.28, 6.93, those are MERS wide.
Okay.
So those are used for MERS as a system. All 700 plus of our employers, municipalities have those rates assigned to them. So your assets are in a pool. And so there's not a specific market return to the township, if that,
Apply it to our percentage of the total assets?
Correct.
and- Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see, page 10. Page 10 is where we start, or introduced rather, the what-if scenarios. So some municipalities like to budget more conservatively if they think, you know, maybe long-term, you're not going to meet that 6.93%. We want to be more conservative. We give you those numbers broken down at 4.93%, 5.93%. So just a budgeting tool there. On the next few pages, we're going to further those projections. I really like the table on page 12. This will give you a 6-year projection in numerical format, so you can see what your projected contributions are going to be for each fiscal year. And then I'd like to point out in the year ending 2027 for your rates 2029, you can see that your funded level starts to go up. So you're going from 61, 63, 65. That is the year that the loss from 2022, that big loss that we saw, is fully recognized. So you'll see the assets and contributions going up along with your funded level.
What year is it recognized?
So it's, if you look at this table, it's a valuation year ending 2027, but your rates 2029. Yeah.
Does the mortality also factor into this? If there's been some demise, is it adjusted for that?
Yes. Yep. Each year, that actual experience of the plan will capture anyone that has any demographic changes.
Additions and deletions, so to speak, are both accounted for.
Yeah, it's all reflected. Yep. And then the next page, on page 13, this is a projection of your funded level. So you can see that the plan is projected to be 100% funded in about 2042, maybe a little bit sooner. That is that light blue solid line. And then we give you the 5.93 and the 4.93 as well. That green line, that is the 60% funded level for PA 202 for the state reporting. The graph below it, that is similar to what we saw in that 6-year projection, just forecasted out. You'll see that your estimated contributions climb up to about 3.3 million. You're going to want to look at that blue, that solid blue line, until falling off here, and then you're just over $1 million. What that is that's showing that the unfunded liability is 100% funded, and it's dropping to normal cost. And what normal cost is the cost to grant another year or month of service to your employees.
What year is that? I can't see that on the screen here, when it drops down.
It is, it's on page 13. So if you look at that bottom line,
Right, what year is that? Is that
oh, I'm sorry, it's about 2040.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So table 1, I promise I'll start skipping pages soon. Table 1, this is your required contributions, but broken down. So the total normal cost, that's what I just mentioned, the cost to grant another year or a month of service. Your employee contribution, that is the what the employees are paying in towards the plan. Then you see the payment of unfunded liability. So that is the unfunded liability, and then you get your total here. So you'll see that 2.19 million as your total annual contribution. The next few pages, so starting on page 16, is table 2. And this is your benefit provisions. So this shows in each of your divisions or employee classifications what the benefits are that the township either offered or are offering. So this is a great place to stop if you're newer to the board and just want to become familiar with the plan. And that carries through to Table 3, which is on page 19. Table 3 is going to again break the data down by the employee groups or divisions, and it's going to give you your actives in each division, your former vested. So former vested is an employee that left employment of the township but not yet drawing. And then your retirees, beneficiaries. Pending refunds are going to be someone that worked for the township but did not vest, so we expect them to take a refund of any employee contributions. So in total, for the township, you didn't see much change. You gained 3 actives, but your retirees and pending refunds stayed the same from 2023. The next page is Table 4. This is your market value of assets, if you want to budget at a market value rather than an actuarial value. Table 5 is your valuation flow of assets. So this table will show you any assets that were incoming or outgoing in the plan. What you really want to look at here is we want to see that the incoming assets are more than the benefit payments being paid out. So overall, with your employer contributions, your employee contributions, and your investment income, you were at about a little over 3 million, and you had 2.7 million going out. So that's another reason that your funded level stayed consistent and didn't drop at all. Table 6, this is breaking down that 60.7% funded by division or employee classification. Table 7, which is on page 25. This is going to start your historical data. So it'll show the history of the plan as far as the assets, the funded percentage, and the unfunded liability, and give you an historical overview of that. Tables 8 and 9, which are the next few pages, does the exact same thing. It just breaks it down by those employee divisions. And the next notable place to stop is Table 10. This is our amortization schedule. What's that? Oh, okay. So Table 10, the amortization schedule. I like to stop here and just explain this a little bit. In 2015, MERS changed from a rolling amortization to a fixed amortization. So you can see that we started at 23 years in the 2015 val and declined 1 year each year. So you are currently on a 15-year amortization, and that will continue to decline. And that's when you see that 100% funded. So you are on a path to be 100% funded. Now, over in this other column here, you can see that the experience of the plan or the gain or loss of the plan is recognized and then amortized over where it was at. So your existing lines are at a 14-year, and then your newest experience from 2014 is starting at a 15-year. And all of your divisions are actually at that 15-year. So then Table 10 also is broken down by division. And you get to your GASB 68 information. Your auditors will ask for that. That starts on page 42. So that's in there for you to provide. And then again, another piece of historical or history is the benefit provisions in each of your divisions. That starts on page 44. And that will show you any benefit changes that have taken place in any of the divisions and the date that occurred. And that carries on to, I don't usually stop here, but I want to, on page 49. This is the increase in final average compensation. So this is what the actuaries, and this is specific to the township's plan. They look at the township's plan and they say, okay, when someone is going to retire, how much should we assume that their final average compensation is going to increase? And those can be due to things like payouts, mostly payouts, sick banks, things like that. So you do have a little bit of a higher one. We typically see about 1 to 2%. The township's at 7%. So I just wanted to point that out. It's not bad, but it is factoring into your plan.
Before you're moving on, I'd like to ask a question about that, if I might.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Later, go back to table 5, but this.
Okay.
The 7%, that's not a cost of living adjustment, is it? It's some other kind of a,
Nope. So that's, if in the defined benefit formula, it's made up of your final average compensation, what we call your benefit multiplier, and then your years of service.
yeah, there's a formula there. that
There's a
varies from place to-
formula.
Right, and you adjust what you're doing depending on whatever formula your client you're working on at the time.
Yeah,
I'm
so
following that.
it's saying if your final average compensation, I'm just gonna make numbers up, when you go to retire is 50,000,
Right.
the actuaries are going to assume that it's going to be 7% higher than that because of payouts or
Will that be
banks.
fixed? Is that a one-time deal, or would you go a few more years and readjust it again?
It's one time.
Okay, so after that 7% is used, that's all you get, that you're at that point on.
Yeah, and we don't automatically do it. That's just the assumption that's built in. If someone might retire and might see a 7% increase in their final average compensation, where the next person might not. It just depends on those wages that are being reported for their last.
Does that have any exposure to discrimination?
I wouldn't,
And some not, I'm just asking.
I wouldn't think so. I would think it's up to the the township's personnel policies. It follows
Bill,
suit with
oh,
that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
go ahead.
This might be helpful to Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, you get a final average compensation at the end to figure out your retirement. It's a one-time deal, and it usually comes from your bank time, and it's added to your income, your W-2, if you will.
Right.
Okay,
And then there's the formula from there. So now it's not figured out every year, it's figured out once, and then you have a final average compensation, which Jamie said that goes to a formula. Then the formula then will develop your monthly income through MERS when you retire.
got it.
Correct.
Does that
Thank
help?
you. Yeah, very much.
Ma'am, how often do you guys evaluate that assumption?
That is evaluated, each year it's evaluated with the production of the annual evaluation, but it's adjusted every 5 years with our experience study.
Okay, because the township did make significant changes in '21 to the way FAC is calculated and basically banked payouts and how those are factored into the FAC.
Okay.
So I don't know whether that would fall into the 5-year category or not, but I would expect to have a potential reduction in that increase assumption if it hasn't already been factored in. So,
Okay, yeah, being that it was in 2021, I would think that it would have been captured in the last experience study because it was captured in this valuation. Sometimes it waits for the historical data to catch up. You have to have so many retirements without those payouts for it to fall off.
So you're not looking at the contract and the provisions of that contract that modify what is factored into an FAC. You're looking at experience then. So until you have experience with those that retire under that contract, then it might not be factored into those assumptions.
Correct. This is looking at experience. Now, I can follow up with yourself or Teresa, whoever's most appropriate. We can, I guess, hard push those changes, I guess, if there's a supplemental valuation that was done. So I can look into that.
Okay,
And
thank
if
you.
it's something that we can reflect next year, we definitely can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. You're welcome. Any other questions on that piece?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then the last piece that I have for you is on the very last page of the annual evaluation is your state reporting for PA 202.
Jamie,
Yes.
can you go over the differences with the state reporting versus the MERS report?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest difference is that you're going to see, as I mentioned earlier, these uniform or state assumptions are at 7%. MERS is at a 6.93%. And then you'll see that there is a footnote. It's the very last one. It does say that for the investment rate of return, we did use the 6.93%, and that's what the state requires or prefers if it's lower than that 7% assumed rate. Other than that, we have everything filled out for you here. You should be able to kind of hand it to them, but those are the big differences. If you ever see a report where the data looks different, it's because the state uses that 7%. Yeah. Did that touch on it, Teresa? Yeah, okay. Any questions on that report?
We go back to table 5
We
for
can
a
go,
minute.
yes, yep.
I think it was table 5.
It was that flow of asset.
Yeah, there was a bunch of parentheses around some of those numbers, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on there. if I saw-
Okay, yeah, let's take a look.
There we go.
This one here.
Yeah,
So this column here, these are your benefit payments. It's just because those are assets that are leaving the plan.
leaving the plan. Is
Yes.
that- what I'm asking is, was the drain on the plan greater than the income? Was the outgo bigger than the income? Is it-
I'd have to go through year by year, but at a glance, it looks at a glance, I'm not saying every single year, it looks like when you add in the required contributions, the employees, and then the investment income, it looks like the township has most of the time had more assets coming in than leaving.
And we remain at 61% funded, right? So,
Yes,
so that's the good news. We didn't go down in
Right.
our funding. Yeah.
yes.
That just woke me up a little bit, and you were merrily rolling along, and I didn't want to stop you.
Oh, no, feel free to stop me anytime, absolutely. But yeah, that's why, just because it's the assets leaving the plan. Okay? Yeah,
Risk commentary, would you speak about that a little bit, please?
so, the risk commentary, it's speaking to, and I hope, stop me if I'm not highlighting what you're getting at here, but it's highlighting the risk, I guess, of the actuarial assumptions. So investment risks, they're all bulleted there. If the actual investment return differs from that 6.93% that we're assuming for this given year, you're going to see a fluctuation. If we think about 2022 where we had that loss, it was closer to negative 11%. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but you're welcome. So salary and payroll, if the township, you didn't, I'm not saying you did, but if our assumed wage inflation is 3%, so if you gave everyone a 12% raise, that's something that we wouldn't account for, and you would see an impact to your plan. Longevity, that's those lifetime tables. So if we project, and again, I'm making stuff up this whole time, we project that everyone's going to live till 80, right? And they live to 120. There's a risk there with that assumption. And then just other demographic risks that's highlighting, someone goes out on disability or someone terminates employment and we thought they were going to stay. So it's really just highlighting all of those what if scenarios that are built into really that experience of the plan.
The other question I had is where you were showing the graph of how it increases. I have to go back.
The beginning of the report here.
Yeah, there was a graph that showed when it will be paid off or paid up.
I believe that's on page 13.
Okay. So if the market fluctuates between, and you have the values the market might return. If that fluctuates in a given year, does that mean that we would have to increase the amount of money?
So
to-
if we returned less than our assumed rate of return, then it would put an upward pressure on your required contributions.
So in 1 year, the required contribution might be $2 million, and if the market goes down, the next year, or the contribution could be, say, 2.5 million.
Yes, and it's not, so that dedicated gains policy that I talked about in the beginning of the report, that is put into place to not put as much pressure on the township if there was a really awful year, like 2022. So you're not going to see your rates go way up to an unsustainable point. It'll be spread over 5 years. But you're exactly correct. You would see it impact those required contributions.
And so in a given year, we might be paying 20% for the annual contribution plus the catch-up. In the following year, it could be 25%.
Correct. Yep. It's very dependent on the actual experience.
And it could, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's difficult to plan ahead for that. And if you were budgeting very tightly, you might have to cut something to.
Yeah, if you were a group that didn't have room in your budget and all of a sudden you saw that upward pressure on those contributions, yes, and we've seen that. We've worked with those groups. There's plan design things that we can do to help them out. Well, you're exactly correct. Yeah, if you don't have a buffer in there, that can happen. Yep.
Thank
On the flip side, if we have a good year, which we're all hoping for, right, then you'll see the contribution requirements reflected and go on a downward trend.
Thank you.
Different variables too, right? Different variables can move in different directions. Like maybe we don't give as much a pay raise as we had anticipated. And so it's not just the investments, it's all those things that you mentioned in the risk.
Yes.
Right? And then smoothing over. So we generally, I mean, I don't anticipate like all of a sudden we have a huge contribution because of it.
Yeah, they all balance each other out. Those things are specific to the township. So, yeah, if we assume a 3% and you don't give raises, just example.
Or it might
then-
even be attrition, right? It's not
See
that
that.
we don't give raises, but we have some attrition and don't fill a
Right.
role or two for a year or so.
Yep, or someone comes in at a lower pay because they're just starting, things like that. Yeah, that can all impact too and counteract those investment changes.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Operating a pension or making a business decision anywhere in this country right now has a lot of variables that weren't common.
Yes.
But is there any way of adjusting for the impact of that? That adds some of the devices that, you don't know how you're gonna end up with your results, but when you do, you have ways of making adjustments at that point. And that might be the best we can do.
Yeah, so I think what you're asking is what have other groups done to
Or
maybe.
do you have confidence you can navigate this stuff, I guess is what my concern is.
So we are very confident in GRS and their assumptions. Like I said, they do the 5-year experience study and make adjustments as needed, as well as, I keep saying the investment rate of return, but that really is the big one. And we make changes. Our board does too. They follow that very closely. They're members of municipalities too, so they're vested in it. But some groups, they do have surplus divisions, so they, pay their required, but they set aside some balance to up the funded ratio of the plan.
There's ways to work the system
There's
to
ways
adjust.
to do it, yes. But MERS is a system we are very confident that we keep a really close pulse on. If something needs to be modified or changed, we're going to do that and be proactive before it gets out of hand.
Probably a little more conservative than at other times.
Yes, yep.
My experience with pensions are that, and you can confirm this hopefully, the purpose of the pension is to pay the benefit. The purpose of the pension isn't to generate massive increases or massive, interest increases or revenue. So generally, the investment policy associated with the pension is fairly conservative to ensure that you don't have as large of swings as compared to, maybe private investment, right?
We're a long-term investment, so we do invest the funds conservatively, yes. Yep.
Of the 50 states, where does MERS, where do they fit in as far as how they do?
So you mean as far as how overall our plans are funded? If you compare the other state-run systems, or?
Well, that's a good question, too. What I'm asking, though, is what the rate of return,
Oh, in other state plans?
how well does Michigan do compared to its peers?
I honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. The only state system that I've ever really dove into is the California CalPERS, and they're totally different. But I can take that as a follow-up and let Teresa or Derek know, and they can report back.
One of the other questions that's been mentioned over the years is, it doesn't make sense to try to pay it more quickly because it doesn't help. Is that, so in other words, if we made an effort as a township to pay this off more quickly or pay it up, what's the
So
theory on that?
we would argue, MERS, we would tell you that if you do have the ability within your budget to set aside or pay more, we are by law only allowed to bill you the actuarial determined contribution, so the minimum. And that minimum means that your plan is sustainable to pay out those benefits. We do tell groups that if you can put money into what we call a surplus division or just pay above that required contribution, it is ideal. Number one, it gets your funded ratio up, so you don't have to do as many state reporting things. And then number two, time value of money. The longer that money is invested in the markets, it can work for you.
So what I hear you saying is, it does make sense to try to fully fund as soon as you can.
It does. We recommend that you, do everything that you can to get to that 100% funded. We typically look at about 120% funded before we would ever make a suggestion. I don't even know if I'd call it a recommendation to not pay excess into the plan.
So at 61% funded, what's the danger there that,
At 61% funded, you're still able to pay your benefit payments. So there's no, I don't want to make it sound scarier than it is, because you're in a good shape. MERS has you on an amortization to get to that 100% funded. So you're going to get there no matter what. But the things that I would take into account with where you're at is if we have fluctuations in the experience that maybe bring the funded level down, then you're at that 60% for the state reporting. And that's where most municipalities don't want to be. You want to be above that 60%. So without much wiggle room there, that's where my main concern would come in.
as I mentioned before, if the returns are not positive, and so have you seen communities where their annual and catch-up are a larger, like 25-30% of the budget? Have you seen that happen?
I very few groups. I've seen some groups, but a lot of that largely plays into the perfect storm of the experience of the plan.
When you say experience of the plan, what does that
So the
mean?
demographics. So
Okay.
maybe a large population went out on disability, or they made a very costly benefit change, something like that. So when I say experience, I mean something like that. With that dedicated gains policy and that smoothing mechanism, you typically won't see a 20-30%
Yes,
spike in
absorb that.
contributions.
Okay.
But I think what you're getting at, or just to illustrate, I think the point maybe you're trying to make on page 12, that 6-year projection. So we're at the 6.93%. You can see your funded level based off of the year and the projected outcome. If you take that just down to 5.93, 4.93%, you can see that just paying in the minimum required, the township is projected to go under that 60% funded. So that's where my concern would come in.
And so what I'm seeing there is, if you have 6.93% return, it's, I'm not, so I'm not looking at let me see if so in the one, if you're hitting 6.9, how much do you need to put in?
It would be, so it's in that last column there, the
Yeah.
estimated annual employer contribution, that
Okay.
would be your required. At that current assumption, you don't go below 60. But to your point, if we returned less than that in a given year, so even the 5.93%, you can see that you do fall to the 50s.
Okay, but what I'm saying, I guess what I'm looking at is, if you're getting 6.9,
Mm-hmm.
your contribution would be 2,190,000.
Yes,
And if your rate of return is 4.9, you're going to have to come up with 3.345 million, right?
correct. Yep.
In a smaller budget, a budget of, say, $8, $9, $10 million, 20, or 2 million is 20%, and 3.3 is
So
30%.
yes, and typically your groups with smaller budgets as well don't have as big of plans. So it's all proportionate to the plan size, but if you're just looking at those numbers, then yes, you're correct.
Okay, and it's a very conservative way to look at it. Okay.
Yes.
The other thing is, a couple years ago, the state gave a carrot and stick kind of program. Is that available, or has anybody talked about doing that again?
The
And how would
surplus-
that help us?
The grant funds?
Yes.
Yep, so
Yeah.
the grant funds were issued to any municipality within the state of Michigan. And it talks about that, the Michigan Local Retirement Grant on page 9, that were under 60% funded. My understanding, it's a state-run thing. There hasn't been any talk that MERS has heard of them doing a second wave or another round of that. But it's completely state-run, so we never know. But there's no plans that we know of.
Would
to.
you explain how that worked?
Yeah, so,
Please.
yeah, the Michigan legislature looked at it and to provide pension relief to municipalities that had a pension plan funded under 60%. They had a budget line item, and they gave assets to those communities to go towards their pension plans.
And what did the communities have to do to get that money?
So they have to, similar to PA 202, they have to apply for it, number one, apply for it. Number two, they have to go to the state and report each year on the progression of the plan, and what their plan is to get the funded level up to closer, to 100%, or at least stay above that 60. The assets that were provided to the communities got them to 60% funded.
So was it an actual, free money to them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't, there's no timeline to pay it back or anything. It's just reporting requirements that they have to go through. From a pension standpoint, it's important to some, might not be to the township, but as part of that, they cannot make any benefit enhancements. So,
They're locked into
they're locked into what they're locked into.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
That's helpful.
I'd like to go back to that conversation a bit earlier on the size of the population being on pension with the size of the population or the size of their pension fund supporting them. In terms of ratio, are we kind of heavy on retirees for the size of our community is my question.
So you are a more mature plan. And we say that anytime that, if we look at table 3, which is that participant summary that starts on, I think I'm going to make the people watching online dizzy, sorry. That starts on page 19. Anytime that we see a municipality that has more retirees and beneficiaries than they do actives, they tend to be more on the
Okay.
mature side.
Yeah,
You're not,
well chosen.
I mean, I've seen groups that have 300 retirees and 20 actives, so you're nowhere near, I don't want to say worst off, most mature plan that we have, but you do have more retirees than actives.
We
Yep.
cut back those benefits though, right? So that in the future, our funding will gradually get better as well.
You did, and I think what you mean by that is you changed the benefits that
The
were being
design.
offered to the employees, yeah. Table 2 of that will break that down, and you can see, for example, Division 20 here is POAM after 4/116.
Oh, okay, so
So-
it was done way back then.
For this particular group, yep, 13 for
Well,
your
it's gradually been,
union, so,
Right.
it's still, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, last contract was still a little bit cut.
Oh, it was cut further through?
What I'm
Yeah.
guessing here is that, as I understand, is that our heavier loads are in a few years ahead of us. It's gonna, our obligations are gonna rise in value more quickly.
they're going to rise.
Go down, after, give us 10 years and it'll be a different story, but
Yep, so they're gonna rise in, again, on this graph on page 13, that bottom blue line, they're going to rise until you get to 100% funded in that unfunded liability.
that's about
That-
17 years from now, if I remember.
Yes, yep, and that's when we moved from the rolling amortization to the fixed, that lump of unfunded liability, if you will, that's when that will be paid off. And then you'll see your required go down if projections stay true, about 2 million. Yep,
So
you're welcome.
as a group, we were talking about having a special projects meeting just to lay out some things that we want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me like it would be nice to have a special meeting on this
Okay.
and tie it in somehow with the timing of the budget. So next year's budget, we see what we have in surplus funds
Okay,
and then
yes.
decide if we want to make an additional contribution.
And if you do decide, I think that's a great idea. And if you do decide as a board that that's something you want to do, if you can have someone reach out to MERS 30, 45 days in advance of that meeting, we can run in-house actuarial projections. So if you look at the budget and say we're going to have an additional 500,000, 200,000, or we want to be at 70% funded, 80% funded, whatever those scenarios are, we can have our actuarial teams run those numbers and bring those as part of that conversation.
Great. And one last remark.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about investment return. Do we have something that shows us the historical rates of return for MERS?
We do. It's actually right out on our website. I can send the link over, but it'll give you a 5, 10, 20-year return.
And then as well as what they're invested in, percentage stocks,
Yes,
You know.
yes.
so all of that.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
great.
There's some regulations, though, on what you can invest in that you have to abide by, right?
There is. Yep,
They're conservative compared to what,
they are. They're not aggressive as some groups might be.
Would you talk about, and I know when I was reading through the MERS, would you talk about some communities, when interest rates were very low, they did bond deals to fully fund? And I guess I read that you don't recommend that, as MERS doesn't recommend that. But-
So that's actually been sunsetted, meaning it's no longer an option. I don't think MERS recommended or didn't recommend it.
Okay.
It was based off of the budget and what worked. A handful of groups did take that bonding option, and they are, for better or for worse, but they're locked into it's the same sort of rules as that pension grant, where they cannot make any benefit enhancements until those bonds are paid off.
So has any communities done it on their own when interest rates have been,
There is
Low.
one group in the MERS system in the southeast Michigan area that took those bond assets and invested them themselves rather than giving them to MERS. I think that's what your question was. So one group did that.
well, no, what I was thinking
Oh,
more
okay.
is, can a community sell bonds to fully fund and then pay that off? And have you seen that, and has it been successfully done, I
I
guess?
haven't seen it outside of the state bonding program. No,
Okay.
I could, I honestly don't have a lot of insight on that, but that's something that we could either talk about if we do a session, or I could just get some more information and send over some general knowledge on it.
I just wondered
Yeah.
if it had been done and whether it was
Not
successful.
to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had one quick comment. So in your report, you do offer up some data with regards to a 10-year amortization schedule versus
Yes.
a 15-year amortization schedule. Is there any way that you can present to us the overall cost in contributions from a 15 to to a 10-year. You know, for example, the difference on page, I think it's page 8,
Yep.
is about a $40,000 difference in the contribution, at least in the initial year, to go from a 15 to a 10. I think probably what would be beneficial for us is, based upon obviously a lot of assumptions, can you give us the difference in contribution expense with, I'm assuming the contributions having interest accumulation during that shorter period of time, all those things taken into consideration?
Yep, so actuaries are a hard group of people to get solid numbers from.
Sure.
But they will usually project out about 6 years, like you saw that 6-year projection. So if we say, if we're on a 10-year amortization, can you show us the first 6 years numerical, you know, with the actual budget line, they'll do that. Anything beyond that, though, they'll put in graph format. But that is, again, something we could have the internal actuaries run and
Okay.
provide, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we all good? Everybody good?
Really helpful.
Thank you. Oh, I'm
Thank you.
sorry. Did
I
you-
just said really helpful.
Oh,
Thank
You're
you.
very
Jamie,
welcome.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you
Thank
all. Have a
you.
good evening.
You too.
All right. Next is public comment. Anybody from the audience? Anything not on the agenda, doesn't matter, anything you want to talk? Come on up, Kathy. Three minutes.
Not big. Kathy Walker, 26051 Thorpe Court. Before I start what I came to say, Kevin, thank you for asking that question, because the 61 was driving me crazy, because I remembered if it hits 60, that's not a lot of cushion. It's not a lot of cushion. I'm glad you asked that. Okay. Over the past year, I've taken on a little building project. Y'all guys probably know. Unfortunately, I had zero experience. But luckily, the GI Township employees were there to help me navigate the process of permits and inspections. Tonight, I came specifically to thank the Community Development Department, the Building Department, the Assessor's Office, and anybody else that I talked to, because I drove everybody crazy, I'm sure. The inspectors, Tim, Bill, and the plumbing guy, I forget his name, were knowledgeable and efficient. Derek, Tim O'Donnell were always helpful with my many questions, and there were so many. Brittany was patient and helpful. She is worth her weight in gold. I swear to God, she is just fabulous. I can't say enough about her. Her guidance was always on point. Each person was very professional, yet kind and willing to answer my many, many questions. I had no background in this. With Grosse Ile Township staff, directions, and patience, I have a finished project to be proud of, and I thank you all. There, 3 minutes.
You still got 2.5 more.
No. That's all the
Thank
fluff
you.
for tonight.
Thank you. Anybody? Bob, come on up. Go ahead, sir. Oh, you need the,
He's been here enough to know how to do it.
Bob Z. Blauvelt. First of all, before I start, I've always been a strong supporter of the police department, fire department, public safety, always will be. But the issue I'm going to talk about, I feel, deserves a little more definition. I'm talking about action item number 2, the generators. The life expectancy of a generator is not measured on its age. It's measured by its hours of usage, especially one that's housed inside a building. The industry standard for these commercial generators is from 10,000 hours to 30,000 hours, given 20,000 hours the medium. Generators housed inside a building are not subject to the elements, such as snow, sleet, ice, rain. Therefore, I would look for a longer life expectancy. The public safety generator, Joe, when we were there, I remember it had less than 2,000 hours on it. I'm assuming that's still good. That's about 1/10 of its available usage. Points of interest. Number one, is replacement of this generator a priority at this particular time? Based on the facts and figures, I'd have to question that. Could the future replacement of this generator be scheduled in a 5-year plan to better accommodate the cost? Most definitely. Number three, should the township create a building maintenance account so that the individual departments would not have to draw from their department budget for expenses such as this? Now, I know that the cell towers supply monies for public safety buildings, so that'll probably put a dent in the total cost of this project. But at the same time, might want to look down the road of creating a maintenance building account. Would probably be a good idea. Number four, could the present generator be placed somewhere else to serve the community? Sold to compensate expenses or used as a backup unit to serve? I would suggest we put a plan together on that before we move forward. Now, I've seen pictures of the generator that was presented in the police department presentation. I'm familiar with the generator. I did see a small oil leak. Looked like an oil pan gasket. Cost of about $25 versus $250,000 to buy a new one. I would hope when we vote on this tonight, we move forward, we don't vote on opinion, but we vote on facts and figures, such as I have presented. In addition to that, I'd like to comment on Mr. Flavin getting involved in these. I thank you for accepting the responsibility of the treasurer's position. You, sir, have a right to ask questions. You put your name on the check. I signed many documents when I was working for a lot more than $250,000. But when I put my name on that, I also accepted the responsibility that went with it. So thank you.
I gave you one of Kathy's minutes, so you're good. Good work. Thank you, Bob.
Hey, Joe, attaboy.
Anybody else from the audience? Oh, Chad, I thought you were on your way. You're you good? Okay, everybody good. Thank you. All right, next, Kevin, the consent agenda, please.
I move that the board vote to accept consent agenda 25-057.
I'll second it.
Thank you. The consent agenda consists of the Township Board of Trustees August 25th, 2025 minutes, check register dated through September 5th, 2025, and that's it.
Okay, any questions or anything on the consent agenda? None? Need a motion for approving consent agenda 25057? Second?
Second.
Bill, all in favor to approve 25057, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, motion carried. Thank you, sir and ma'am. Action items number one, approve purchase agreement, Macomb Street property. Jameson?
I move that the Grosse Ile Township Board hereby authorize the execution of the attached real estate purchase agreement for the following properties: the westerly 100 feet of the west 300 feet of Lot 107 and Lot 39 east side of Horace Gray's subdivision. The purchase price for these parcels shall be $200,000 with funds provided in part or whole by the sale of 25146 Dallas Drive. Furthermore, the Township Board hereby authorizes the Township Manager to execute the necessary closing documents associated with the purchase, and the purchase is contingent upon the split and combinations of the aforementioned lot as outlined in the attached purchase agreement.
Need a second on that before we go to
Second.
history. Margaret, second.
Okay,
Go ahead,
so I'm not going to read the history because I'd be reading for another 50 pages. If you look in your packet, you will see that what we are referring to is two pieces of land co-located roughly across the street from Lions Park. The intent would be to purchase these properties in order to install a playground and potentially parking along Macomb Street to kind of anchor that section of the street in the park. There is several organizations that have offered to chip in on the construction and purchase of a playscape. So by and large, the financial impact is it's nearly nothing to the township, right? Other than maybe a little bit of engineering and some fencing, and I think we've actually even mitigated the fencing thanks to Zaid, the rec director's hard work. So I think it's a big win, and I think it's something the community has demanded. It's come out in the master plan. People have stood up here and talked about it, and I think it's going to be a boon for Macomb Street, boon for the community, and just a really great thing for this board to be able to pull off within the first year of its seat. So.
All right.
We have some discussion
you,
on
sir.
that, please, or?
I have some, but did you, Mark, you go ahead.
Well, let's have some discussion, yeah, I don't know if I can make a friendly amendment, I guess, at this point or not, but I just want to talk about the purchase of this property specifically going to be for a playground, is that how I understand it?
Well, we're going to purchase it, and once we purchase it, anything can happen, but we're going to purchase, doesn't matter what we have in mind. This is
Well, no.
just to purchase the property. Obviously, what we do have in mind is the playscape there, but,
Of course,
yeah.
but my question to the
Nothing's
clerk.
gonna be put in stone in the purchase agreement to say what it's used for, because it's just
The
purchasing it.
Mark, I think what you're driving at is could we find some compromise and add something else to it?
Yeah, I'm thinking more like a multi-purpose. I mean, of course, include a small playground or playground across from the park, that'd be great. But also maybe some type of residential, some
Yeah,
type
I
of
think
small
that-
condo,
so this-
something to that effect. So it helps bring in more revenue for the township as well, and also serves a purpose to the community in that particular area for the playground.
Yeah, just to be totally honest, it's my intention that it be a playground, but this action item does not preclude it from being anything else.
Okay.
So
Just to purchase it is to purchase it.
I just want to be clear, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
there's nothing gonna be in the agreement. I mean, we all have our opinions, and I'll get to that, but,
Okay.
all right, sir?
Yep, I'm good, thanks.
I'd like to go, if I could, right now. I've watched this for many years, and I remember back, and there's a gentleman by the name of Tony Kraus who, him and his group built the old playground, and they built the whole thing from start to finish. And I used to watch it when I was a police officer there on Macomb Street. It was right out our back window. And I thought, when I was the police chief, that this playground really had a problem. It had a problem with, it was wood. It had a problem with, unfortunately, you know how kids are. They do things that maybe some kids probably shouldn't be doing. And we found contraband, we found all kinds of things there, and we had to close it down. And then we had an issue there, it wasn't safe. And when I found out that we could get two pieces of property, we have a funding mechanism to buy the property, which was the home that we're putting up for sale that we received from Wayne County. And then I met, the day after the last meeting, I met with Zaid. Zaid and I had a nice conversation of funding sources for the equipment, and there was a possibility of 4 funding sources, and actually 2 of them weren't a possibility. They were pretty well set in stone, which is $100,000 from one group and some other money from the county, $50,000 from the county.
6-0.
Okay.
6-0.
And then we had the ability, just as Tony Kraus and the group did, they had a fundraiser. But they built that all with their labor by hand. Things are different today, obviously. And that was back, I believe, in the 90s. And Ross can attest to this because I met with Ross. And on the surveys, people want a playscape. I think it'd be a beautiful thing to have for the children out here, to have a nice brand new playscape on Macomb Street, a possible parking area in the back of it, the playscape closer to the sidewalk, meaning, going towards the north, and the parking lot going towards the south. And I can't see a better win-win. Jameis and I talked about it. The funding sources from both seem to be there. In tax dollars to the township, I mean, you can say, well, no, those could be tax dollars that we're selling the home. That's true. But we use that as the funding source. We use the commitments as a funding source to build this playscape for, the kids, the parents, the grandparents to bring somebody to. We haven't had this out here in years. And I recall that old one, and I apologize. When I say old, because it was built, it was 30 years ago. It was packed. And unfortunately, what it was made out of had some issues with bees and splinters and kids hanging out. And then I also put a camera there to go to the police station. Well, that kind of helped, but we finally had to, if you will, condemn it. We had to. We had no choice. And I think this is a beautiful thing for Grow Seal. I think this is one of the better things that we could do for the entire group, for the kids, once again, the mothers, the fathers that bring their kids, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles, anybody that does something, that watches children would be, I don't know how it could be any better that both ends are paid for. So, once again, this is not to purchase the property. Tonight, we're only voting on to get.
Purchasing the property.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was on such a roll there that I put in a knot. So tonight, we're only purchasing the property. And again, my point is, we can talk. Now,
Right.
You know what my opinion is, but we still can talk.
Well, yeah, everybody up here has an opinion, so should everybody in this audience.
Yeah, so that's just my point. So what we're doing again tonight is to allow to purchase the property, both pieces. I guess you would call them two pieces of property there. And then we will talk about moving forward.
Okay.
But I think, some of us have that direction that we want to go in, and that's my thought. So anybody?
Okay.
Yes, so I don't want to belabor this because I completely agree with what you just said, Joe, but as somebody who went through all of the master plan overviews where residents came and provided their input, it was very, very strongly recommended that a playscape be provided. I mean, it was at the top of the list consistently. Anybody that looks through any of the Grow Zeal social media pages, playscape, strongly, strongly urged. People are looking for it. They cannot wait for it. So I think the rec department, the rec commission, hats off to you guys. I know you've been working hard trying to get this. I'm hoping that we can bring it home. I think, I'm not, so I'm going to tell you, my first opinion wasn't Macomb. That wasn't my first choice. I think Centennial Farm's a great idea, but here's how I look at this. This isn't Margaret's project. The people, in my opinion, the residents have been very, very clear. They want Macomb. And you know what? I didn't vote, I voted for myself, obviously, but it's the people who are most important. And I think it's very important that that is recognized. Those are my feelings. That's how I feel about it. So
Okay.
thank you, by the way, Rec Department.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. Who would like, Mickey had something. Mickey?
Yeah.
I'll get in there too, some point.
All
Joe.
right.
Okay.
Bill, you go after Mickey.
Just great job, you guys. You finally got us there. And if it's not too much to ask, once you get that done, I only hope that we can continue in that same direction and have like little pocket parks at the ends of open trails. So you have that, those trails connect park to park and like put more on the northern end and ones that are farther away. I think people are going to be so excited when this gets done. And so congratulations on it and well done.
Thank you. Bill?
I have nothing against the playground for kids, but I have reservations about this location and would want to discuss that briefly after I get done making my caveat here. I think that we have to have some conditions in here that provide for safety. When I hear the word mitigate fence, I get nervous. There's traffic out there. I would love to see something, if it does go in there, that is well protected to stop kids from running around and running out into the street. I'm also concerned about the financing of this thing. I know that we have legal advice from our lawyer that it's all legally correct. But when I look at the facts, the age and the circumstance of the lady who owns that house, and she was in debt to the township or to the county or whoever had the house at the time, something like $10,000. That other 190 came out of her purse. And I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm also pleased to find that there's alternative ways to maybe fund this, and I'd be more pleased with listening to that too. I have reservations about approving all of this for a playscape until I get to see a blueprint of how things are designed and laid out. I happen to be unfortunate enough to have, in my personal life, been in a couple of situations where children were nearly killed, and the only thing that saved my life was a fraction of a second, literally a second. And I know how fast those things can occur, and it bothers my soul to think we're creating something that creates that potential. Kids that play don't think about this stuff I'm talking about. So I'm not against buying the property, but by the standards I've outlined, properly funded. I honestly believe that that lady will someday have someone on her side who brings a lawyer in that will contest this with us on the propriety of what we have done, even though she has signed a document. I think the question on that issue of her acceptance was what were the conditions under which she was advised when she signed it. I can't see a normal, rational person giving up $190,000 if something was properly explained to them. And I don't think it would be good press for this township to say we put this thing together by doing something like this.
Bill, can I, hold on a minute. I gotta stop you there just 1 second.
I'm willing to listen, Joe.
Yeah, I just want to explain something, because I don't want the township or the people get the wrong idea. The process goes through Wayne County. Wayne County does everything they possibly can. They're not in the real estate business, so Wayne County does do everything they possibly can for people to keep their homes. They go through a month of legal advice, if you will. They give them advice. So once it comes to Grosse Ile Township, it's Grosse Ile Township taking it and giving the county a certain fee, and the county then turning it over to Grosse Ile Township. We have nearly zero to do with how this individual lost their home, what happens. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression, because, and I know you're not making it sound this way, but I got to make sure we're clear on this, being the township supervisor. This isn't a home that we foreclosed on an individual and took it from them. This is a home that the county came to us and said their paperwork is all done with what they do with homes that have issues. It goes through the court process. The court had even ordered a month to get advice on this. And I just want to make sure you're clear too that she has no standing in any lawsuit against Grosse Ile Township. Zero. There is no standing. There's never been a precedent case that gives them standing, and we didn't take it from her. We were notified by the county, would we like to purchase this home for a certain amount of money, basically the rights to the home, not the home. So I just want to make sure that's clear. We did not do anything we had zero to do with an individual. That it's sad that an individual did lose a home. That's correct. And once it gets to the county, it's a whole different ballgame. And then once it gets to Grosse Ile Township, the court, the financial advice, the court-ordered financial advice is all over. So I just want to make sure it's clear. I'm not going against what you're saying, Bill. I just want to make sure that how you explain that, because there's people watching and the people in the audience don't know maybe what the process is, but that is the process.
Yeah, the
Joe, I'm
county
sorry.
has already foreclosed and seized the home, right?
They do it, not us.
They did it,
Yes.
already did it, and it's done, and it's gone through circuit court, and we're just receiving first right of refusal on it. So if this board wants to turn around afterwards and cut a check to an individual for $190,000, we're certainly welcome to, but it would require an action of this board.
Well, may I make a comment?
I'd like to thank Joe for what he said here.
Yeah, no, I want to stay on track of the purchase.
It needs to be straight on how this is going.
Yeah.
But for the points that he's making, I think it's valuable that we are not involved in some of this process. and it has some impact to a degree on fairness. But I have a feeling that, from everything I've heard when talking with people, that we might not have the last of this.
Well, I know legally we did everything correctly. I will promise you there is no ability for an individual that loses it to Wayne County, because say Groseal Township said no. You know, Jameson and I could go that next month and buy it on the auction. We could buy it and flip it, let's just say. So,
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I want to stay on task here, yes. I don't
Okay.
want, go ahead.
Well, the issue is, the folks from Recreation are here this evening. Thank you for being here. I am not against playgrounds. I'm happy that there's an opportunity for a playground. What I'm not supporting is using $200,000 from a house that was foreclosed on that is in this community, and there are different legal opinions on what has been said this evening. And there's a Michigan state, the Michigan Supreme Court of Michigan said that a community can't take a piece of property and have a windfall profit. And I'm paraphrasing. And what happened here is an individual lost their home for $18,000 worth of taxes, and the home is being rehabilitated by the township, and it's going to be put up for sale. And the situation is that there'll probably be $200,000 to $230,000, maybe $250,000 in sale value. And what the Michigan Supreme Court says is you can't take their money like that. And again, I'm not an attorney, so doesn't sound very professional, but the point is, what I have seen as the treasurer, and it's part of my job to check this out, I have seen no documentation from the township or the county that says that the rules and regulations have been followed. I've asked for them. I've asked our attorney to provide that, and I got a chuckle. So what I'm asking for is, and I've asked Derek to get it, I've asked that the packet from the county that has all the information, it's called the foreclosure packet, I've asked that be provided to me, and that we can see what exactly was done. And I guess the question is, were the lady's legal rights, were they followed by the county? Does she still have legal rights? Was due process followed? And just on a normal or who in their right mind walks away from $200,000?
Actually, quite a few people
does
do.
that?
Now you're going, I don't want to get into this young lady's.
Yeah, I'd like
let's
to-
not, we're going off on a tangent here.
No, I don't think so.
Well, here-
It says provided in part or whole.
What
by
I'm
the
saying is,
sale of the house on Dallas, right?
this property might be encumbered.
Okay,
And
you're
as the
go-
You need to
treasurer,
listen
I
to
have
our
an
legal
obligation.
counsel And not legal counsel.
I
the
have an
Groseal
obligation-
Taxpayers Association.
Can we call
We
the
listen to
question?
Our municipal
Call the
attorney.
question.
Hold on. Everybody, slow down a minute. Just listen. Slow down. Tonight, we're going to vote on the purchase of the property. If you don't feel that was done correctly, that is your right, and I guess you have that right to say that. We're
Well,
going
thank you.
into an area, and I don't want to start talking about the misfortune of anyone in life or their capacity in life.
I didn't do that.
You're going down a road that is a very slippery slope. And I'm going to tell you
I-
that United States Supreme Court ruling doesn't say what you think it says, what you just said. Okay?
I don't know
I'm
what
just-
you're talking
I'm
about.
just letting you know that.
But I'm telling you that the Michigan Supreme Court does say this.
Okay.
And I have an obligation as the treasurer. I have the job as
Then
treasurer
do your
as
job
it's
as the
defined.
treasurer, that's fine.
As it's defined, I have the responsibility to bring this to the board
Okay.
and explain this. I don't appreciate the crosstalk either.
You don't? Okay, well, that's
And
okay.
So what I'm saying is that I'm pointing this out to the community. How would you like your family, your son, your daughter, your mom, your dad, how would you like somebody to come in, take their property, and not give them any money for it? It's
nobody
not,
took
it
their
doesn't
property.
happen.
We
You're
did
not-
not seize anyone's
We didn't
property.
do anything that you're saying.
That's
You're
not-
portraying
No,
a
Grosse
picture.
Ile Township did not seize
What
that
I'm saying
property. That
is-
is an empirical
What I'm
fact.
saying is that I don't know that the county followed this woman
We can't
giving her
question, I
due
don't know if the
process.
state followed the rules when
I-
they paid
I
for
have
our
an
backhoe
obligation.
last month, right?
Bottom line,
we can't go
please,
questioning
The
higher
community, I'm
echelons of
asking the
government.
community.
Can I get a word in here?
I'm asking the community
I would
to
like to call
support,
the
to
question.
I call the
support doing this
question.
the right way.
No,
Let's-
Question will be called, we're gonna vote, it's over.
Just a minute.
Look, it's over.
I've got a proposal I'd
No,
like to share to
Question's
resolve
been
this.
called, Bill.
Bill, we're done. We're done, I'm sorry. This
We're
is,
not in accord as a board on this thing right now.
Well, that's not really how democracy works.
Well, I'm not so sure democracy's working right now.
You guys, let's take the vote. Recreation
But I would like
Department
to
works so
suggest-
hard, and we are just,
I'm not faulting recreation. In fact,
By Robert's rules, the question has been called, and we must now vote.
you can explain anything you'd like, Bill, during your trustees report, but this has gone in a direction that's not only dangerous, but we have some risk and liability under what comes out of people's mouths up here. So the point is, what we did was 100% there, period, legally and any other such way. Okay,
I'm not disagreeing with you.
action
on
item
that.
number one, we're voting on it right now. Action item number one, to approve the purchase agreement of the Macomb Street property. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
I'm
say-
asking for a voice, or would you please call the roll and
Be
vote?
fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be fine, if that's what you like. Okay, Margaret,
Aye.
Mark,
Purchase the property, aye.
Kevin,
No.
Joe, aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Jameson, beat me to it. Jameson, aye. Okay, Mickey,
aye.
Bill,
Nay.
thank you. Motion passed. Okay, action item number three, professional service agreement with OHM Advisors.
You
I'm sorry.
missed one, right? Or no?
Missed that one, hold on.
We got too much.
Number two, I skipped the three. Number two, CE Rains Project Oversight for Public Safety Generator, that would be Margaret.
Yep. The recommendation to the Township Board is for approval to contract with CE Rains to assist the police and fire departments with the evaluation of bid coordination and performing contract administration on the replacement of the backup generator at the public safety building. Somebody want to?
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Sorry, Margaret.
The history, purpose, and explanation. The police and fire departments intend to replace the existing standby generator manufactured over 35 years ago with a new generator along with associated appurtenances to power the public safety building under current normal loading conditions. The township engineering firm, CE Rains, will perform the following services, not limited to, but including evaluation of the quotes performed, field coordination, and observation during installation. Coordinate and monitor startup and completion of installation. Assist with punch list items and close out the project. This is for approval of the project only at this time. A later quote for the generator project will be presented to the Township Board for approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Margaret?
I actually have some comments on this.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Margaret.
No, that's my fault. So questions have been raised regarding the purchase of a new generator for the public safety building. While these concerns were addressed a little bit earlier in the year, I want to take a moment to provide additional perspective on why our public safety leadership has determined that replacement is needed. The safety of our residents is paramount, and that includes proactively addressing equipment that is at the end of its useful life. As the stewards of the public safety building, both chiefs are responsible not only for the building itself, but for the safety of those who depend on it. So my personal perspective, this is an analogy. Not long ago, I replaced my furnace and my hot water heater. They hadn't failed yet. I just didn't want them to. I knew they were nearing the end of their service life, and waiting until they broke, for me, would have meant disruption in my household. So to me, that same logic exponentially applies to this generator, in my opinion. Proactive replacement prevents service interruptions and ensures reliability when it's most needed. Now, the generator is at about 1,600 hours. Your unit is relatively light runtime wear. However, the age-related deterioration often matters more than the hours, especially with critical systems like police, fire, 911, lean. I mean, there's more I could list off. I just don't want to take up our time right now. But after 30 years, even with low hours, most manufacturers and insurers and the National Fire Protection Association standards consider the unit to be beyond its typical service life. So for those that have suggested using a temporary backup, we reviewed this option earlier in the year, but I'll mention it again. The backup generators are not cost-effective solution for the length of time it would take to source a new permanent unit. Again, everybody's got a different point of view, and it's a matter of balancing, in my opinion, being prudent about this, being fiscally responsible about this, because we have this budgeted. This was budgeted in our plan. And so the team is ready to make this replacement to be sure that we are being good stewards of our residents.
All right, thank you, Margaret. Anyone else have a question on this?
I've got an opinion on this.
Okay.
You can, Mickey first, and then
Sure.
Bill, you will go. I promise, Bill, you'll go.
No,
this time. I promise you.
I understand, Joe.
All right.
Go ahead.
So Margaret and I actually didn't talk about this, but Margaret, you raised the issue of whether to wait until it actually goes out. So our hot water heater did go out, and we went days without hot showers, and I wish we would have replaced it beforehand. Just background on this project, Margaret and I are liaisons for police and fire, and we've had several meetings and calls with Chief Roscoe and Chief Carmack. They put a lot of work into this. They did a lot of research. They showed us a lot of information. They answered all our questions. I do agree that using CE range, using somebody qualified, an engineer, to not only look at bids, but to also be there when it's being installed to make sure everything goes appropriately. I do believe this is the right thing to do. It was commented that while board members have the right to ask questions, I just want everyone to understand that the opposite side of that is that our chief of police was tied up to 7 hours in answering questions for things that Margaret and I already knew. That's 7 hours. That's a day at work. And so while it's not required, we do appreciate if questions flow to us. We would also like for transparency for the public to know whether it's coming from another board member or an outside group. An outside group is always welcome to come here and comment and give us ideas, but not to necessarily give assignments to our managers. And so we really want to be careful that we walk that line and that we understand where the requests are coming from. That's it for me.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I'm a bit ill at ease at the way it's being put together. I basically agree that preemptive maintenance is a good policy and procedure. And you would replace your water heater before it fails, or any other portion of your home, a furnace, whatever. I don't see in the installation of this device anything much different than our own home. And instead of saying we probably have a refrigerator over there to do, as well as the furnace and the blower on the furnace. But all these other wonderful systems that help keep us safer there, and it's vital that they stay in use. And when we don't want them to go down. I'm not convinced that a little more time to investigate some of this isn't a wise choice. because if we're talking, as I understand it, something approaching $200,000 here. I know the money from the cell towers is in there. But I look at that and I'm a little bit shocked. I'd like to have some engineer who's a professional that knows these kinds of things give us an opinion, and maybe through Ohio we'll get that kind of thing. I mean, this is a sheltered device. I mean, I somehow intuitively know that. I happen to have personally a 20,000 watt machine that's been outdoors. It's about 17 years old. It has faithfully served us. It's had annual maintenance. It runs about an hour and a half every month. It's getting to the point where parts aren't available for it. We're going to have to replace it. But when you're talking the price of something, I'm not suggesting that the police department use something like I have. It doesn't have a standard for reliability that we need here for the public safety. But I'm not unconvinced on the basis of prices I've researched that we're going to be getting the value that I'd like to see how they came up with 100 to 200,000 for this thing. I'm not saying it isn't necessary, but based on what I'm hearing, and with the amount of money that's involved, I'd want to know more. I would maybe vote in favor of this a little more easily if I was convinced from something more credible than the information here. I care as much as anybody in here for the safety of people.
I think it's important to remember we're not voting on the replacement of the generator just to bring on CE Rains to oversee.
I understand that, but I also hear the rest of this opinion, and what I anticipate is the remarks that are made when it's time to go for it.
Yeah, I
Throwing a question mark into that, I'm putting a marker in the ground.
I think that's why you don't have more information in that regard, though, is that we're just.
Yeah, it hasn't
Okay,
started
I
yet,
can
Bill.
understand
We will,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I promise you'll have that, all that information you just asked right now. You'll have that in the next vote.
If I could back up one subject, I'd like to make damn sure there's a fence around that playground. Now, we'll go back to this.
Well, Ross is here. Isn't there an ordinance, Ross, that says you gotta have a fence around the
There'll
playground?
be a fence. There'll be a fence.
There'll be a fence. Ross, isn't there a fence? See that? There's a fence.
Yeah.
Okay, so we answered both your questions, Bill. That was good.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything else?
I have a couple questions as the treasurer.
Sure.
Thanks. And they are, has a professional evaluation been done to the generator? And is it planned to have an electrical engineer come in and review or tell the community, tell the board what's going on with the generator?
Is that the same question you've already asked, and it would have required a considerable amount of more money to provide something to that effect? Is that what you're asking? Or I'm not really clear on specifically what you're asking.
I'm
for.
asking specifically, has there been a engineering report on what is going on with the generator? Is it, and part of the reason is, I see the checks that come across the desk, the desk as the treasurer, I sign them. The question is this generator, what are we going to do? Scrap it? I haven't heard these, this is an opportunity to discuss this. What are we going to do with that generator? Is it going to be scrapped? Is it good enough to save? There are freighters on the Great Lakes that have engines in them that are 80 years old.
Bless you.
And those engines are upgraded, updated, the technology's updated.
Bless you.
So all of those, that might be possible for this piece of equipment. We know that we need a generator at the Pay Bridge, or we should consider it. We don't have a generator at Township Hall. There may be someplace else that we could use a generator. So has this generator been evaluated by a professional who is an electrical engineer?
Evaluated in what, I'm not sure exactly what type of evaluation you're asking for.
I'm asking to find out whether the generator, what is its current status? Is it workable? Is it fixable? Is it over, is its lifetime at an end?
So it's at its life's end based on the fact that it's over 30 years old.
No, I
Yes.
don't accept that.
Well, that is the fact.
The fact is that a generator can go for 10,000 hours So I would like a professional evaluation of it. And so far, I haven't heard that that's going to be done. The other thing is, the police department has, there's only so much money. And part of what the job of the treasurer is, the police department had, went over budget by approximately $100,000 last year. They're forecasted to go over budget by about $230,000 this year. They did not get the community did not give them a millage increase.
Well, that wasn't their
And
fault. So
the-
that was an outside
You're
group who
interrupting me.
wrote
You're
that
interrupting
millage
me.
that created
You're
the problem
interrupting
Hold
for
on,
the
guys.
police.
You're saying things that aren't true.
Guys, hold on, one at a time. Go on. Kevin, just finish your point up. Let's go.
The point is that there are a lot of questions that have not been answered. There's no plan on what the chief is going to do going forward. I've been told, a variety of different stories. So the problem is, we have a police department that's way over budget, and the money from the cell towers, that money could actually be used to help, get their budget under control. And we have to find out what is, in fact, I asked the chief last Thursday or Friday when I was talking to him about this, excuse me, what's the urgency of doing this? And his response to me was, well, we've been studying it for a year, it's not that urgent. So, that's what he said to me.
But Kevin, you just said they're way over budget, and they are not way over budget. They get things from the millage and also from the general
misspoke.
fund.
I
But
misspoke.
that's a huge
What I'm
thing
saying
to
is,
say that's wrong.
I misspoke. What I'm saying is, they are projected to be over budget by $230,000 this year, and I don't know what the budget will look like next year with.
I'm not sure where you're coming up with this. They're on track to be meeting their budget. So I'm not sure what where your numbers are coming from. When you say this.
Let me ask Derek. Is that an accurate number that I gave?
So the police department budget was balanced utilizing general fund revenue. So I guess to say that they're over budget or projected to be over budget is technically incorrect, but you can say that they rely on $230,000 of additional revenue above and beyond the millage allowances that they have to balance their budget. And Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Or you
that's
can say
probably
the
the more
budget is
accurate
made
statement.
up of the millage plus funds from the general.
So
Exactly, that's
what
what
I'm
it's
saying.
And that's what we went through when we did budgeting this year.
What I'm
so that's
saying is
not a surprise or.
that the police department has to take $230,000 out of the general fund to balance their budget. Is that a correct statement?
No.
That would be closer to accurate, yes. The revenue that they have coming in from their millages does not balance their budget. There are general fund revenues that come over to help support the operations to the tune of $230,000 in this year's budget, but it is balanced with those funds coming over. And as far as I know, they're not scheduled to go over budget.
Correct. And the cell tower funds are what are covering the generator. It's not our budget covering it. It's the cell tower funds. And it's also the cell tower funds for the fire department as well.
You're splitting hairs. Bottom line,
Not splitting hairs.
taxpayers, we run a very tight ship here. If you don't want your taxes increased, you have to look at this stuff. That's what I do as the treasurer. And I think that we need more information from the police department on how they're going to fund this and whether it's a necessity to do today or tomorrow. Thank
Well,
you.
Okay, Mark, you are next.
Thank you. My question, some of these questions have been answered. It was about the longevity of the generator, whether or not it can be repurposed. I'm as far as this particular issue tonight, we're just voting on to have the CE Range oversee it, which I really don't have a problem with that. As far as whether they buy the generator for the police department, fire department, or public safety, as opposed to the bridge first or second. That bridge is also a priority. We already have experience with that 5 months into this thing now, where the power went out and the bridge was not operable. Is that correct?
Just to put your minds at ease, a generator is being engineered and the necessary electrical connections as part of the bridge project that we're doing, the overall
Okay.
bridge project.
But did the overall bridge project include a generator?
I believe
which-
it did. I believe it
Okay,
did.
so I was told it did not, and I just wanted to clarify.
It does, Mark.
Because that's also an important part of our infrastructure as well as the public
does.
safety, for sure, right? I mean,
Yes.
we can't get off the island, there's another problem.
You're correct, and it does.
All right.
I'm glad to hear that. I sent a note to Ms. Bailey about getting a generator after that.
Okay, let's stay on track here. All right,
This is
any
sort of
other,
oversight. I have a quick one.
Jameson, go ahead.
Just a couple of quick things. So, as a point of order, we cannot increase anyone's taxes. So only the people can increase their taxes through millages. And then a couple of, your comments, Kevin, like regarding like the ships. There are ships on the Great Lakes that still use steam engines. They have full-time engineers, including chiefs, juniors, and everyone else that literally sit there watching it every minute that it runs and provide perpetual maintenance to it, which is why they're able to run for as long as they are. The generator we have is low hours, but obviously, anybody who's got a 30-year-old car with original components might have 10,000 miles on it, and you're still going to be replacing a whole lot of parts to bring it up to modern standards. And then I think one of the other, you made comments about due diligence and wanting to know what's going on and everything else. You didn't provide any of and with the backhoe purchase, we trusted you and DPS when you said, we need this, it's required, right? Our department says we need it. We didn't say how many hours are on the backhoe. I commented that a 17-year-old cat backhoe probably ought to keep running, but you said it wasn't. We don't know what the hours were on the thing. We don't know the specific problems. We didn't receive a maintenance report. No engineer went through it to let us know that it was all tore up. We had faith in one of our commissions and the expertise of the individuals on it. And I think it's a little bit, I guess, talking out of the side of your mouth to turn around and say like, well, the police department and fire department didn't do any due diligence on this and that they're, just throwing around money willy-nilly. And another consideration in that too is the firefighters maintain equipment like this. Like they have generators on their trucks. They have apparatus technicians. And I'm confident that if this entire department is saying, hey, we're really concerned about this generator, then it's a concern. And those are my only comments.
I need to respond to that, please. What I'm saying is that there's a certain amount of money that we have as a board to spend. Is this a critical purchase at this time? That's my question. The answer that I got was from the chief of police that we've been studying it for over a year. It's not that, we don't have to do it that quickly.
I would really like to hear Doug Carmack
Well, that's what he
say
said
that,
to me.
that he said
I would
to you.
too.
Okay, you're
'cause I've
calling-
never heard
You're
it.
saying that I'm not telling the truth.
We're saying
that's-
all
that's-
the
yeah.
All the calls.
No, no, no.
So I have a.
Don't be pointing and
I have a
giving me your lip.
fundamental responsibility to explicitly, that is charged to the treasurer, to make sure that the funds are
That's-
there.
So since you're
But why
saying
don't
that,
your-
wait a minute,
And
So if
you
you're
had a
saying you
problem there-
oversee
if
every
you had a
payment
problem,
of every
Jameson,
check, are you saying you sign every check?
If you had a problem,
physically sign them
Jameson-
yourself?
Hold on.
If you had a problem with buying the backhoe, I went and I asked what the reason was for the
You
purchase of the
couldn't even
backhoe.
explain it to me.
I did explain it to you. You asked me the question, I explained it to you.
Nobody
I
could tell
call-
me specifically what the problems with the backhoe
Well,
were. Just
let's
that the
ask- let's
turbo.
ask Derek.
No,
Ask-
it's
Yeah,
not
no.
Derek.
I'm
This
not
is
talking
about Derek.
this. Yeah, I'm not bringing Derek into
No,
this, right?
I'm-
That was your action item.
I'm-
Okay, so you apply all of these requirements to everyone else's action items that you don't apply to your own, and we still
I
supported
don't
you.
agree with that. I disagree
Yeah.
with that.
Take a vote now and be.
I don't-
Wait,
I
before
disagree
we
with
take
that.
that vote,
I
I'm
called the
asking,
vote.
I'm
I
asking a
called the vote.
question. No, you said you
I
want to be
called the vote.
transparent. Do you sign every check and do you confirm everything on those checks? Do you physically sign them? Let's be transparent. Do you physically
What does
sign?
this have to do with
You
the
just
discussion?
said that you look at every check and you carefully review them. I'm asking you, do you physically sign every check, no matter what?
The
And-
answer to your question is I have not signed every check
Okay.
because I refuse to sign checks that I don't agree with. For instance, the Red Barn.
Okay.
and the way that went.
And
All right,
are
I
there
call
other
the,
checks that
I'm
you've
calling,
refused to
The
send?
question was called.
calling the
Supervisor.
question, it's over. Once again, unfortunately for the people, second action item that we can't seem to have regular conversations
Is there
over.
enough time to try and review this when we have a cooler head in
Yeah.
a week or so?
No,
Would that-
No, Bill,
would that
you're-
throw the baby out with the
No more
bathwater?
questions, too. All right.
Somebody has to watch the money. That's what I do.
Well, you can
And
keep
that's what
watching
we
the
all
money. I
do.
appreciate
We're all-
what you do.
We
I
all
appreciate
have
that you
fiduciary
appreciate-
responsibilities
I
here.
really, no, I
You
do.
do. The whole board has
That's
fiduciary
correct.
responsibilities.
We all do.
That's right.
Okay, stop. Everyone, stop. Action item number 2. CE Rains Project Oversight for Public Safety Generator. All in favor, say aye.
Please do a
Roll call.
roll call vote.
We can do that again for you.
Thank you so much.
We'll start on the other end. William?
A reluctant yes. I know it's going to pass, but I wish we could cooperate with each other and listen to one another. And I'm wanting to have meetings on this before we decide what the final deal is.
I think that was a yes. Okay.
An angry yes.
Aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
Joe, aye. Kevin?
No.
Mark?
For the oversight, aye.
Aye.
And Margaret. Okay, we got that, Mr. Bryan? Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I have the next one, and now let me pull that one up. I'll take it from my phone. All right. Would you like to come up while I'm reading, and we'll go from there? The Grosse Hill Township Board hereby approves the professional service agreement with OHM Advisors for the purpose of updating the DDA TIF development plan. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, because this history is fairly long, I'm going to outline it, and Ross, our head of the downtown, I'm sorry,
DDA director.
yeah, but hold on, I'm sorry, Ross. No, I got that. I want to make sure I got the DDA director. Hold on. I at least know that part.
I know.
Okay. The Downtown Development Authority collects funds through tax increment financing within a specific geographic boundary. The DDA TIF development plan establishes the legal basis for the capture and expenditure of tax increment revenues in accordance with PA 197 of 1975 for the purpose of stimulating and encouraging private investment in specific development areas through provision of public improvements. So the current DDA plan was updated in 2012 and it'll extend to 2032. Is that correct?
Yep.
Those numbers? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it didn't go to. So it's every 20 then.
Every 20 years.
I gotcha. And what it allows for, I'm going to just outline, and then Ross can take this over. But project-specific gap funding, housing tax increment financing, streetscape enhancing. And I also want to say that you can go through the RFP if you like, Ross.
Yep.
But the financial impact is $37,730 from DDA budget. But the plan will be entirely funded by the MSHDA Housing Readiness Incentive Grant. And I want to explain this real quick. This is a grant that will pay for this issue. And what the issue does is help people on Macomb Street. So what we're doing by voting for this is the grant helps the people help Macomb Street.
Yep.
And it funnels into our business district.
Yep, and just to touch on the grant before I dive into the actual plan itself. So the Housing Readiness Incentive Grant was a program created by MSHDA, which basically gave out $50,000 to communities who had a stated goal of increasing housing stock in their communities. And essentially this plan, the DDA TIF plan, qualifies under that expense because we are looking at including project-specific grant gap funding for mixed-use development, and I'll be sure to dive into that later, and then the housing increment tax financing to fund housing developments anywhere on the island. And that was a new policy implemented in 2023. So this plan is the legal basis for the establishment of the DDA. So in order to have a DDA, you need to have a plan, and this plan allows us to continue to operate.
Ross, can you say the name of that plan? I'm not sure I caught that.
The tax or the DDA TIF plan.
Yeah, is that what it's called? I'm trying to say there's a name that makes all this possible. Is it the DDA TIF? Is that the name of the plan?
TIF, yes,
Yep.
TIF.
Okay,
Yep.
I've got that here now. Thank you. I just
Yep.
want to be sure on that.
Yep. I lost my spot. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So this basically extends the life of the DDA over the next 20 years. The reason why we're doing this is because we can't bond out past 2032. And I've met with, I forgot who our consultants are. Yeah, yep. And they said that, if we wanted to do any long-term streetscape enhancement projects, what I wanted to do, or what we wanted to do, they said you'd have to extend the life of your DDA because they're not going to bond you out, allow you to bond out past, 2032, past the life of your plan. So, we went through an RFP process, had 6 consultants bid on the project, went to the DDA, presented those consultants. We filed it down to 2. The chairman and myself interviewed 2 consultants, and we went ultimately with OHM. A part of their team worked on the 2025 master plan update, so they already have a strong familiarity with the township and the DDA itself, and they do really, really great work. So, and then a large component of the plan will be a visioning process for Macomb Street, what kind of things we'd like to see on Macomb Street, whether that be crosswalk enhancements, landscape treatments, those sorts of things. And we'll have meetings with the public, sort of having vision boards, having discussions about what we'd like to see. The township board will be included in all that as well. And the consultants will be there from beginning to end. So they'll actually present the final plan to you all and kind of talk more specifics about what's in the plan moving forward. So
Thank you for the explanation, Ross. And just to reiterate again, the grant handles the cost.
correct.
I want to make sure that was clear. That's absolutely. Go ahead, Mickey.
So is this like a mini master plan that really goes in depth on Macomb Street and talks about visioning and funding and?
Not really. It basically it extends. So the way that the DDA collects tax increment financing, it's basically projecting our revenues over a period of 20 years.
Okay.
So that basically, and then we have eligible expenditures within that plan, streetscape improvements. So they'll say, hey, these are the eligible expenditures and these are your projected revenues over these years. And then you can also say, hey, we want to bond out a project. We need $2 million right now. This is our projected revenue. So this proves that we can pay you back over the term of that bond.
Oh, so a lot more budgeting and projections and.
Yes, it really
Okay.
it allows us to plan further into the future and do
Okay.
larger projects now and then pay for them over time, if that's what the DDA ultimately wants to do.
Because the DDA is statutory, we actually have limited authority in our decisions that impact them, I believe.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to saying no, you can only spend money on this, and that, I think that's
Yeah,
you
right.
can't do that. But as far as ultimately approving budgets, those sorts of things, that's where
We have the authority?
I believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
So, just a couple of things, Ross. I think you're doing a fabulous job. I really do. I think what you've just outlined, what you want to focus on, that's exactly what we should be focusing on. I will say I was very disappointed that an additional $6,000 was approved at the last DDA commission meeting for additional sculptures. I think you understand what is needed on Macomb. It's not more art, and I'm not against art. I think the DIA installations are fabulous. I think that was a brilliant idea. I think that has brought people to those locations. But the fact of the matter is that we have spent over $250,000 on art. I love art too. I really do. But in order to hang art, you have to have your framing in place. You have to have your, you have to have your needs before your wants in that sense. And I would hope that this commission, moving forward, understands that we can't continue to see that happen. It shouldn't be what happens. So I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the vision. And I think the business owners will also, because we need a cohesive hardscape landscape plan. And I think that's what you're trying to get into place.
I have to agree with you on that for 100% with, I think you have a good vision for it too. I'm sorry, I know I probably spoke out of turn, I apologize,
No,
but,
that's all right.
but I also have to agree with the whole, art project. We need to focus on other things.
Anything else for Ross? With nothing? Action item number 4. Number 3, I'm sorry, I keep skipping around. Professional Services Agreement with OHM Advisors, DDA TIF Development Plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, motion carried. Ross, oh, I'm sorry. Hey, see you later, buddy.
He's already halfway home, man. Let him go.
I'm sorry, I had my, no.
It's 9 o'clock, go.
I had my head down, I was writing. Hit the elevator for me, will you there? Yeah. Thanks.
Good night.
Good night, thank you for your help. Jeez, I didn't see him get up.
It's 9 o'clock, man, he's out of here. Don't blame him.
All right, next one, I think Jameson has.
Yep. This is Block Grant Fund Deficit Elimination Plan, and I'll get into the history after the action item. Whereas the Township Board of Gross Sales Block Grant has a $17,017 unassigned deficit fund balance on March 31, 2025, and whereas 1971 Public Act 140 requires a deficit elimination plan be formulated by the local unit of government and filed with the Michigan Department of Treasury. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the Township of Gross Sales Board of Trustees adopts the following as the Township of Gross Eels Block Grant Fund Deficit Elimination Plan.
Second.
Okay, so really what this boils down to is Rec received a block grant for upgrades to what they call the bathhouse, but it's the shower and bath building there at the pool, for Americans with Disability Act compliant improvements. But those funds weren't released until 2025. Work had already started with some of the planning, which cost $18,545. And essentially what we are doing is paying back the funds that were previously spent. So it's really correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa, but we're correcting the budget in short and then paying money back to Wayne County. No, Wayne County's paying money. We're paying ourselves back. That's what it is. What are we paying back then?
Somebody tell me who's paying
So-
it.
I obviously
The
don't
wash is
understand
what
what was
it is.
explained to me.
Yeah.
So the grant was awarded to the township. The township was required to incur initial engineering costs as part of that process. The funds were not released by Wayne County until 2025. So the funds were expended at our year-end, March 31st of 25. In order for us to recognize the same amount of revenue, because it's a grant to match, which is usually what happens, we have to receive it within 90 days of year end. So because this is basically a timing difference, because we're not receiving the funds until sometime relatively soon. Things are starting to progress with Wayne County, and so we should start receiving the funding. So once we receive the funding this year, that in effect eliminates the deficit.
Okay. But I guess maybe I'm oversimplifying it then. So there is $17,000 going to our.
So if they had a deficit at the end of the fiscal year and that deficit is not resolved within 90 days of the end of that fiscal year, you're showing a deficit still. So we have to have a deficit correction plan filed with the state to be in compliance with that. And then, like Teresa said, it's just a matter of timing. That money's coming in after 90 days past the end of the fiscal year, so you can't say that there wasn't a debt within the end of the fiscal year, that 90-day period.
So it's an accounting adjustment, just to show them that it's all taken care of.
Well, we're required to file.
Anticipated at this point is
And
what it means.
the block grant fund typically doesn't have a very large fund balance because it's the grants, which is this, we get the grant and we spend it. So we didn't have enough excess fund balance coming into the last fiscal year to cover the excess expenditures as of March 31st. So that's why the deficit is not quite 18,000, because we had a little bit of fund balance to offset it. But as soon as we will receive the funding from Wayne County during this fiscal year to not only cover those costs, but all of the costs for the
Okay,
project. 'cause
that's I
it's-
guess maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but we have a deficit of $17,000, and the grant money from Wayne County
Yes.
will cover it.
We'll
Okay,
cover it,
all
but
right, all
we're
right.
not allowed to have a negative.
Yeah, I feel like you
balance.
guys said the same thing I did in a really complicated
Yeah.
way. So, but maybe like I said, maybe I'm just way oversimplifying it. But that's the gist of it. The money's coming in, and we've got to make the account right. So.
So you do have to add be it further resolved at the end of that resolution, Jameson?
The financial, I don't see the result. Oh, maybe it's all the way down at the bottom. No. Oh, I see what you're saying. So the unassigned fund deficit, $17,017. After all the computations, has a restricted fund balance of $1,528. That's what you're referencing, right, Teresa?
Keep going.
Be it further resolved that the Township Board of Gross Seals Finance Director submits the deficit elimination plan to the Michigan Department of Treasury for certification. Ah, okay.
All right, we good? Okay, with no other questions then, block grant fund deficit elimination plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried. All right, number 5, Kevin has.
Winter tax levy.
Winter tax levy. Do you have that? Want me to pull it up? Or, oh, you got it in there?
Right here, Manuel.
I think starts at
Talking about
230
231, 238?
231. Yeah,
that the
but the
page you need?
resolution itself, I believe, is
231 it
238.
starts, Kevin, I believe. Or I can pull this.
Recommendation resolved by the Groseal Township Board of Trustees that there be levied on the taxable value of said township for the year 2025, winter billing a tax of 14.2508 mils on the taxable value thereof, said value being 892,099. Or, I'm sorry, I'm reading this incorrectly.
We do 809 million.
I
809,299,970.
thank you.
You're welcome.
The glasses aren't as good as they. I need a second for that.
Second.
Thank you. History and purpose, the 2025 winter tax levy must be approved by the Township Board by September 30th, 2025, and the L-4029 submitted to Wayne County. The millage rate is being calculated using an MRF millage reduction fraction, otherwise known as the Headley millage reduction fraction. The Headley Amendment was passed by voters of the state of Michigan in 1978, which requires the local unit of government to reduce its millage when annual growth on existing property is greater than the rate of inflation. With the passage of the Approval A in 1994, the growth on existing property is impacted by the uncapping of the taxable value due to a transfer of ownership on the property. The uncappings cause the taxable value to increase, in most cases, greater than the rate of inflation.
All right, any questions for Kevin? With none, action item number 5, 2025 winter tax levy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Do we take a break?
You want 5 minutes,
Yeah,
sir?
I just want to
Okay, how about we take a 5-minute break then?
absorb what the butt can or
Okay.
whatever.
All right, we're back. Thank you very much if you're out there listening. Next, we have our discussion items. The bid process is first, and I'd like to start this off. I'd like to recommend something to the rest of the board and get your input, and if you feel we need to go in another direction. The last time that we spoke on the bid process, a lot of good information. It went into a lot of different directions. And these are not the directions that we all can bring together at just the discussion item and I think clear up. So I think what we need to do is get some type of subcommittee, because it wasn't just 4.8 on the bid process. It reached out into other items of the procedure, process and procedures for the township. It also had many good ideas, and I just don't think we're able just to keep coming back time after time and hash that out here. Would anybody be willing to have a subcommittee if they're looking at, Derek brought up from the managers, brought up 2 pages, I believe it was, of suggestions, and I think some of the things on there were excellent. So would anybody like to chime in on this, or do you
Can
want
we-
to go in a different direction? But I just feel.
I would,
Joe, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Mr. Supervisor.
Oh,
Let
Mark-
Bill go first.
Oh, William, you go ahead.
yeah, I'd like to see that list of suggestions the department heads made. I think that's very important.
That's what we got last time. Did you get them?
And I can add to that.
Not sure.
Did you send those to us, Derek? Because I was on vacation. I'm trying to remember.
I
if
think
we-
they were handed out at the meeting. I don't know if we emailed them to
I'll get
you.
another
No,
set
just,
from
it
you.
was hard copy.
Was it hard copies?
Hard copy.
They were
Absolutely.
hard copy. Yeah,
Absolutely.
they were hard copy. You
Yes.
did give them out at the meeting. Okay. Then what we can do is, would anybody be willing, or which direction would you guys like to go in? And ladies?
I think that these are 3 very in-depth topics, right? We've got bid process, entrance audit we could probably talk about, but employee compensation, that's all heavy-duty stuff that I don't think we're going to solve tonight, and you probably need working groups, if not subcommittees.
Well, here, let's go on the first one. Let's
Can
do.
we set up a study session for that, the bidding process? Can we just do that?
You want to try?
That would
and
be
hash
worth
out
it
the
too,
study
in my
Yeah,
opinion.
if we, I think we, well, I believe we can, yes.
Okay.
I'd
Then,
recommend that too,
yeah,
Mark.
can we recommend? Can we do that then? Are you guys in favor?
Right, I think we
Mark, I
could,
think that's a
yeah.
good idea. Then, if
Yeah, I
you
would
think
like
we
to-
can do it that way.
I believe we can, yes.
Okay, that's fine.
And the bid process on the entrance audit and the other one, those 2 combined would be worth another one. So these are significant issues.
Okay, then you want, how about we do this? We know the bid process, we'll do a study session. Do you think we can, because my proposal would be for the entrance audit, same thing, pick 2 or 3 if you guys have went over the packets on the employee compensation and classification consulting services. So if we go through that and pick 2 or 3 out of that to interview, I would like to obviously interview them. Should we do it the same way in a study session? Is that what you guys are in favor of?
I like study sessions.
Yeah, I think with the bid, are you saying one study session for that? I was thinking one for both that and the employee compensation wage deal, but.
How many
That'd be a
study
long night.
sessions, or how long do you think it would take, Derek,
So,
if we go through?
couple of things. First, we'll have to work with you guys to get them scheduled, but Teresa has a good point. Specifically with the entrance audit and the employee compensation, there are some considerations as far as how quickly those need to be done if we're going to choose to do them. The employee compensation was something we wanted to have completed before, if we're going to do it before the next budget cycle, right? To be able to, and also we have upcoming union negotiations that'll be happening in the spring. So we would need to act on those
Gotta
fairly
get on a
quickly. So a
horse.
study session and a corresponding decision, whether we're going to do it or not, needs to happen soon.
Have we already done an RFP? Forgive me, my memory isn't optimum all the time, but we haven't done an RFP for employee compensation and
We did.
classification. We have.
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
So we just need to interview people and pick one.
Yeah.
Well,
Here they are right here.
I guess I would think that you guys would want to decide whether you want to move forward with the interviews,
Glenn
yes.
got those things, if that's what he's talking
Because
about.
I would assume if you're going to interview, I mean, the assumption I would make is that you have interest in entering into a contract with somebody then, right?
Yes, I mean, at least from my perspective, I think the most important thing on this whole list is the employee compensation and classification, right? So we need to.
I agree.
Should we do it in that order then? How about if we have a study session first for number 3, which is the employee compensation wage
And that's a
benefits.
study session to conduct interviews, correct?
No, that's a study session to see which
Ones
group
we
we
want
want.
to interview?
Yeah, you're gonna
Oh,
go
okay.
through the,
All right, but then if it's a subcommittee, it's not a study session, right? So if you want 3 people to go through it,
Well, like, I think the supervisor's suggestion was like on the bid process, it kind of went into things like purchasing policy, right? And a lot of times we've seen the township, get work groups together to go over language and things of that sort. And then bring a recommendation to the board, and then you guys can review it, to hopefully develop consensus.
same thing.
So whereas I think the entrance audit and the employee compensation, that's more of a, do you guys want to move forward with this? And do you want to do interviews? And if so, then you do those interviews. Text amendments and things of that sort, a lot of times better done as work groups.
at a study session, or maybe Brian, at a study session, can we come out with who we want to interview, or is that a vote?
I think you could make a recommendation to the board, right?
You'd have to come out and actually do it in a meeting. You could not.
But you can do a special meeting, which would be no different than a study session. You can just take action at this.
I see value in that because people who are thinking about it get a variety of viewpoints to incorporate into their choice, and I think there's strength in that.
Am I under the assumption then, that it sounds like from what everybody's saying, that number 3 is more important than 1 and 2 to get done now? To get done sooner? No.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have a
The
deadline for
priority,
that.
yes.
What are you saying, Teresa?
So, number 2, I think because of the fees, I think the board needs to decide if we're going forward with this. If we are, that has to be done because of the time that it's going to take for my department, depending on how many years are done. We have to have it done before December 31st, at least our
Okay.
part. If it takes them another month to do the report, that's fine, but we are way overloaded January, February, March.
Excuse me, sorry.
So could I recommend then
to
2
be- to
subcommittees
have to do this.
of 3 individuals from this board? One on the employee compensation subcommittee, 1 entrance audit subcommittee. Those subcommittees can't limit the authority of the township board, so they couldn't eliminate anybody, but what they could do is order them, right? Analyze the individuals, order them, interview them if they want to, and then make a recommendation to the township board. That could vote on it in special session with both of those subcommittees make a recommendation in the same special meeting.
Can I also ask a question then with respect to the entrance audit? Because I'm a little concerned about that. So, Teresa, could you please ground me on the fact that when we said entrance audit, the implication is that we're looking for something that's forensic, that's not necessarily above board. I don't want to use the word criminal, but that's inherently, when we do an audit like that, is that typically what the implication is? Because if so, that to me is an executive session discussion, not,
An entrance audit is looking, it's not implying anything is wrong.
Okay.
It's looking at everything to kind of make sure you have a clean slate going forward, type thing.
But the difference is they do.
But there is no assumption, there's no indication that anything is being done wrong or is wrong or has something wrong has happened. When there is an incident, that's when it's a forensic audit.
okay.
Because then it pinpoints to certain specific areas. And in this case, we are having them just look at everything. I say the word, I don't mean it lightly by saying just. But we are having them look at everything just to review everything, review what we're doing in accordance with our policies and procedures, and potentially, I guess, we're looking back at prior years and then extrapolating that out to what are we doing now?
Okay.
And then going from there.
Okay.
And to add to that, if something did come up, then it turns into a forensic audit and it
Correct.
goes in another
That would be a
direction.
whole
Well, they are,
separate thing.
and Margaret, just so you know, it's true. The entrance audits, new boards, new company, board members, private, public, municipalities, and when they go in there, these are forensic accountants. So they do peel the onion back much further than a regular auditor were to do, if you will. And I guess your question is it looks at everything, which covers everything. So you're correct. There is that stigma to it, but it doesn't mean that something's wrong.
Okay.
That's not what this means. So
Could I throw something in here for a second?
yes.
I want to talk about administrative law. I had a class in that when I was in school. And the lady that taught the thing said that of all the classes she taught, it was the most difficult for people to grip. They'd leave the class because they couldn't understand it when they were a third of the way through it. She said, you're not going to start understanding it till you're like 55% or 60% through it. And what I'm getting at is that when we have this entrance thing, it's going to be looking at procedures. It's sort of what applies to administrative law. And if you understand how that stuff works and follow it, and after it's like riding a bicycle, you'll do better as you learn it and use it. You'll not only be able to make the very same choices for the same reasons because you'll have documented it, but you'll have a fine trail of information that tells you what you did and why you did it for reference in the future. And that, in my mind, is very significant. Because if somebody sues you, you've got a line of stuff to show that you have been a prudent business, a prudent government, a prudent person, whatever we want to call it, which could either throw the thing out of court or reduce the sentence or show you're a squared away bunch. But if you know how to work those things, and it takes some effort, you learn to get the suit to fit on your shoulders, you see, and it'll run. And I feel that this is worth that because it'll help us to learn how to do that and realize that some of the things we're asking for aren't from hotshots trying to shoot somebody else down. It's just that doing it that way makes it appropriate. It has our best interest at heart. I just needed to throw that thought in there.
All right, thank you, Bill. Now what we have to decide tonight on these three items then. Teresa, you would believe, I want to get this straight first. Teresa, you would believe that number 2, now there's no real order, but number 2 would probably be best to get done first.
Correct. To start first,
No,
yes.
just to see who's coming and who we're going to get. To go through the process, right?
Correct,
So we should look
yes.
at that first. Okay, I'm just going to put that down. And then could that also be connected to number 3 because they have the same company, some are the same?
Some of the same, and particularly, well, number 3
Yeah.
is all payroll related, and January is extraordinarily busy for my payroll person and me
Okay.
with doing year-end payroll forms, W-2s, 1099s.
All right, so let's do this. Are we more in favor on this board to have a study session? Brian mentioned a special meeting, and Jameson mentioned a subcommittee. What are we in favor of to get number 2 and number 3 done together?
2 is entrance audits and 3 is employee compensation, as you're saying that, right, Joe?
Correct. So those will be, those we can add at one time, and then the bid process, we can do a different time.
Joe, is the thought for them to come back before the next meeting and say, here's who we think should be interviewed?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, because they can't make the decisions in a study session. I'm sorry, you can't vote on it in a
There's no
study session.
quorum there.
okay.
So which way would you guys like to do it? You want to do it by study session, by, how about we have a study, no, you wanted the committees though, don't you?
Need one other than to just vote at the next meeting? Everybody look at your packages and then just,
Well, I think the thing is you guys want to interview these people and pick one.
Well, that's what the vote would be at the board meeting, is who we're going to interview.
So we either need to interview them as a group in study sessions or interview them in subcommittees and make recommendations to the board.
Well,
I think we should, go ahead.
I think that the first question is, do you even want to proceed with interviewing anybody?
I think
There might be members of the board that say, hey, we don't want to do this, or we don't want to do that, or we should do this, or we should do both of them. And then go through the proposals and pick who you would want to interview, then conduct those interviews and then award a contract. So I think, like I mentioned before, like the bid process, the purchasing, those are text amendments. Those are best handled, I've seen, using like work groups, right? Whereas study sessions and special meetings, I think that you guys could probably come to a consensus on whether you want to proceed, who you want to proceed with interviewing, and then schedule those interviews. That would be my suggestion.
Schedule the interviews for the full board or just for the
For the full
working group?
board, yeah. I mean, I think it's best
Full
to
board.
interview consultants as an entire board.
Special
Okay.
meeting with the whole board.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the best. Teresa, you had something?
So I just want to remind the board that for both of these, neither are in our current budget. When the budget was approved in March, it was a balanced budget with an excess of $200,000, which represented the potential sale of the Dallas house. The state of Michigan has not approved their budget for their new fiscal year that starts October 1st. So there's been discussion about pulling funding of state shared revenue from townships. It's kind of all over the map right now.
Yeah,
Some
undecided.
townships think, I've seen, and I've not really seen this, but where all of their state shared revenue is being stripped away. The most recent report from the House is that for Grosse Ile Township, that would mean a reduction of about $18,000, but nothing has been passed yet. The state they have to approve their budget before September 30th or technically shut down. There are a couple other things on the board's plate. With the ClearGov, the personnel budgeting, the capital improvement budgeting, and the strategic planning, and where you want to align those in conjunction with these, because these are all goals of the township.
So we just said we were gonna use the 200,000 also for the park, so does that eat up all our excess revenue this year? I mean,
So if we sell the house,
uh-huh.
and then we use those funds to pay for the lots, then we're back at a balanced budget. We don't have any more excess.
So we don't have any additional funds to pay for these other,
Not in
At
the
this
budget.
time, no, we would be using our fund balance.
well, it sounds like we have no funds to use for the entrance audit or for,
That's correct, for right now.
We have no current year funds to use.
Correct.
We have a total, some of the fund balance is assigned, but we still have just under $2 million in the general fund balance. But that's a decision the board needs to make if they
Well,
want to
should we do this?
project to use some of that fund balance for
I
these
don't-
projects.
I don't like to keep kicking the can down the road on issues. I like to get them done because we have so many issues. But do you think if we had one study session, went through all three of these, and then talked about which way to proceed, order of procedure, and, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, would at least give us a game plan, a goal, and a mission where we're not going to get that done tonight? So how about we do that? Are we in agreement with that at least? We'll
Yes.
have one
I
study
agree.
session. We'll put all these three issues on.
yeah.
And
In
then,
that one study session.
One study session?
and one study session, not to go through it, but the direction we're going to use will come out of that study session.
And we should put it on a different day than the board meeting, because it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
Right.
Can we do that, Derek, then?
Yeah,
I'll work with Brian to find a day in the near future.
And that
the
will be one
schedule's
study
available,
session,
and then
only
we'll
not before a meeting.
check
And
the
its
available-
purpose, again, just so that I understand this,
The purpose, William, will be to come out of that study session with a direction on all three of these issues. Also because it's not budgeted. Okay, we're gonna
Right.
have to talk about that to see what your priorities are and what we're going to use to pay for your priorities and how much you believe this is worth. Because at this point in time, if we do pay for the property with the sale of the home, then we are back to even. We are not back to a $200,000 surplus.
Right.
Okay? So I think we're gonna need to go over all that, and we'll go over it in one study session. Is that fair?
Yes.
Joe, can I ask that all of the materials for all three of these be bundled and emailed to us? Because I know the one was like a handout when I missed.
Yeah, the proposals for the audit and for the wage survey, They're just too large to email.
They're the hard copies?
Yeah, if I
Okay.
scan one, it'll be over 10 megabyte, but
Okay.
everybody should have a hard
The
copy.
little
of those.
booklets, did you get those?
The only thing I think I didn't get,
Oh, not in there. It's not emailed to you.
there was one thing I didn't get that was a
Yeah, she's-
handout at the last meeting.
Here's what Mickey's looking for right here.
I can email all
And this
the,
is what Derek handed out.
I can email all the policy language. It's just the proposals are too large to email to you guys.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
if
I'll
you
send
can
those
do
out
that.
tomorrow. I'll send out the language tomorrow.
Yeah, the other stuff's
Thanks,
probably
Mark.
on your desk. I think it got set on all of our desks.
You know what? Can you check your desk?
I got like this much stuff when I came back from vacation,
That
so
is
it's
it.
That's
probably
it.
in there.
That's
Okay,
That's it.
Okay.
That is it. It's about that
Okay.
big for both.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
Since,
It's 3 bags full.
okay.
since you're getting dates for
No, it's like
that,
this.
Yes, Mark, I did.
exactly
You're
right.
right. Thank you.
is it possible to get a date for, I think Mickey had recommended, and I think it's necessary, that we go through objectives and accomplishments, if we can get a date for that as well?
We'll try to get a date together for that. We've been trying to get a date together
Right.
for it, but
No,
it's
no, I
been
know.
proved to be difficult. Remember, we do also have another date already set on the calendar for the interview of
Yep.
the legal
The-
services
yep.
for cell tower. I
Yes.
think that's like the 24th.
That's the
or so.
We got two of
24th,
the three
yeah.
So
interviews
yeah,
set
we'll
up,
try to
right?
get dates for all of that for you guys.
Thank you.
All right, so good. At least we have a direction where we're going in with these 3 discussion items. When we come out of that, excuse me, I'm sorry. When we come out of that study session, we'll have a direction, and then we'll have an understanding which way we want to go and go from there. So, all right, very good. Thank you. On to the clerk's report. Derek, did you get everything you need? Did you get everything you need then? Okay, sir. Clerk's report. Go ahead, Jameson.
Okay, I got a couple things. Regarding the signing of checks and responsibility of the treasurer, and I bring this up because I'm responsible for the purchase at the Red Barn. The circumstances where the treasurer may refuse to sign a check are limited, and in short, they are if the payment is not substantiated with supporting documents or if there's insufficient funds available. In the case of Grosse Ile Township, a valid board action and a valid expenditure with board documents and a quote is arguably sufficient documentation. This is not an authority for the treasurer to undo the actions of the board that they don't care for or that they don't agree are fiscally prudent. It is a function to ensure that there is no fraud and that the monies are spent in compliance with state law. In the case of the windows at Centennial Farms, there is a viable bid, the treasurer has the documents, there is a legally taken and fully understood board action by a majority of this board, and the treasurer should authorize the payment. So, we kind of have meetings about meetings. Our meetings are public. And if people on this board have questions about upcoming action items, that they need to reach out to the various other elected officials regarding their concerns so they can be well versed on the topic before coming into the boardroom, right? So just because you haven't seen it before doesn't mean it doesn't need to be an action item for that day. We conduct the people's business. We should do it with efficiency and not to waste public time and tax dollars. Regarding our retirement discussion with MERS, I think there's a lot of impacts to our retirement costs. It's not just contributions and rate of return, but also number of employees, their pay, and their benefits. And I think if that's a significant concern for this board, then we need to look at this holistically and make sure we're addressing this from a whole of government approach and not just throwing money at the problem. So if there's significant worry, then I think we need to have like a whole working group about it. That'll probably take better than a year, right? Or even find members of the community that want to tackle it. And then regarding my committees or commissions, Recreation met last Tuesday with no significant action items, but good discussion about various activities taking place in the community, including continuing efforts with welcome baskets for new residents. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank the various businesses and island organizations that continue to contribute to that. I know it's probably a little bit of annoying having someone from Rec stop in every once in a while to ask for more pamphlets or flyers or whatever, but it's a really cool thing that new residents get to receive a welcome basket to their new island paradise. And then BPAC meets next Thursday. We're waiting on the build dates for the Bellevue connector, and the work for South Point and Grove Road resurfacing should start next month, end of this month.
I'll cover it under my report, but Elba Island is supposed to start this Thursday, so
Okay.
while that crew's on the island, they'll probably be doing the bike path, but
Okay.
soon as we have an opportunity to speak with them, we'll let the residents know when that's going to occur, but it should be in close proximity to that project.
Post haste.
Yep.
All right, thank you. That concludes my report.
All right, Kevin, you're set.
The treasurer's report for September 8th, 2025. The Groseal summer property taxes are due Monday, September 15th. That's next Monday. Payments will be taken at Township Hall or in the drop box tomorrow without late penalty following the 15th. Mail postmarked with September 15th, 2025 will also be accepted. Beginning September 16th, a 1% per calendar month penalty is added to any unpaid summer taxes and can still be paid to Groseal Township until February 28th. After that date, all unpaid taxes, summer and winter, become delinquent and then must be paid to Wayne County with further penalty. To date, we have collected 30% of the 2025 summer tax roll. Distribution of school and county taxes have been made timely. And thank you to everybody for paying your taxes.
All right, thank you, Kevin. William?
Thank you, Joe. The Planning Commission that I'm liaison to has been interviewing people for membership on the Planning Commission. Angela Secocas, who had served well in the past, due to circumstance, chosen to leave. She needed to do that. We have an opening for other people who might be interested if they feel they're qualified and would like to participate on the Planning Commission through September 16th. So that would be the time frame before the door closes on it, and interviews would be made during that process to make sure that it's open to everyone. The Airport Commerce Park Commission are busy landlords. The circumstance there is something they pay close attention to. Nothing new, though. It's the same thing with a different day, and they do it very well. Thank you.
Becky?
Hey, sorry guys, I got a lot going on. Fire department, they're gonna have a 9/11 ceremony Thursday morning at 8:30 at the fire department flagpole. All are welcome. At our next fire commission meeting this Thursday at 5 p.m., there will be the first of a badge pinning ceremony for new members who complete training in 8 months of probationary periods. All are welcome to attend, so that's fun for the new firefighters. Millage renewal, just want to remind you, it's coming up in the fall of 2026. It's a renewal, not an increase. We use those millages to save long-term to be able to buy equipment like the ladder truck and the ambulance, which the ladder truck is coming this November. It's already paid for with the millage funds. The old one will be sold and funds put back into the equipment fund. And the good news is the new ambulance is coming 8 months ahead of schedule. We should have it in April 2026. It's already been budgeted for, and then we'll decide what to do with the ambulance that's being replaced. Burn permits. Margaret, you said somebody asked you about this.
Mm-hmm.
They can be picked up and filled out and dropped back off with the police dispatch. The fire department is going to work on putting those online to make it easier for people to get copies. When you submit one completed, it's good through December 31. The permits are free and can avoid up to a $500 fine if you have a fire without one. When you sign it, it's saying you've looked at the rules and requirements. You understand you don't have a fire if it's windier than 15 miles per hour. You can't use gas as an accelerant, those types of things. Moving on to Greenways Open Space. So I went to my first Dump the Junk, and I thought it was amazing. We so appreciate all our volunteers. We estimate there were 325 cars that dumped concrete, yard waste, wood, scrap metal, and garbage, and they filled 18 dumpsters. 150 of the treasure hunters found lots of good stuff. The funniest thing was watching John Kine with our new backhoe go and lift logs up and heavy equipment and weave in and out of all these dumpsters. Derek, I can see why you wanted him to have the same type of equipment, because he doesn't look at any gauges or anything else. He just drives that, and it's unbelievable. So that was nice to see. Trail maintenance. TNT cleaned all the overgrowth and hazardous trees on Meridian Woods and Ferry Gauge. If anybody comes across, like my husband and I saw a tree down on a trail, call Township, because then they'll get word out and we'll get that cleaned up right away. Parkway Macomb Trail, progress is continuing. Bill Stevenson, I want to give him a special shout out because when we saw that tree down, he went out there immediately, cut that tree down out of the way, dumped the junk. He walked me all around. He taught me how that whole thing works. He is just always on top of stuff. So, and Saturday was definitely a success. Groseal Nature and Land Conservancy, tomorrow, September 9th, they have Caching Cousins at the Resource Center at 8801 Macomb Street. It's from 6 to 7:30 p.m., presented by Wild Birds Unlimited. They just sent their newsletter out, so keep an eye out for that. This last thing, I said a little bit during the meeting, but I just want to say in terms of how we as a board work with our managers, that we need to be careful in how, and what we ask our staff to do and how much time that takes. We should also make sure we're aligning to board objectives and not outside groups. If there's a cost to develop the information, it should really come by the board first. Our preference, at least my preference, is that if there's a liaison in that commission, that they be involved first because they're the ones that are attending all the committee meetings, up to date on what's happening. I think board members should be copied on anything other than simple questions. Our staff members have been inundated with questions and things, taking them away from their day-to-day work. Recently, someone asked for all legal opinions. I just want to throw it out there that we need to be very careful with that because they're subject to attorney-client privilege. If we give them to somebody else, we're going to lose that privilege. So we also need to have that same respect for NDAs. That's it for me.
Thank you. Margaret?
So I attended the DCC DMA, which is the Downriver Community Conference, Downriver Mutual Aid meeting this past week. And oddly enough, and I'm going to butcher his name because he introduced himself as Eric. It's Eric, I think, no, it's Sabri, I think, but it's like, yeah, yep. So he is the treasurer of Wayne County, and I spoke with him a bit about foreclosures. And he highlighted for me the support programs that his team has in place to help residents and to mitigate foreclosures whenever possible. He emphasized that during the entire meeting, and I talked with him separately. But Wayne County's not in the business of real estate. They do not want to be. So I want to clarify that, you know, there seems to be confusion. Groseal does not foreclose on any properties. Property taxes are collected by Wayne County, and when foreclosure is unavoidable, it's Wayne County, not the township, that manages the process. From time to time, the township board votes on whether to purchase a property, and we have a fiduciary duty to our residents in that case. That property becomes available, and it's something that we can use to support our community. It's imperative that we do that. We have to support our community. And I view this project, this Playscape project, as a positive outcome from something that Wayne County does try very hard to not have foreclosures. They had 400 less foreclosures this past year, because of their programs. So I think they're working hard at doing that. The first installment of the e-newsletter came out on September 2nd. My compliments and thank you to Brian Friel, who did a fabulous job, as well as all the department managers who provided input on this. I think it was a great first start. I was very impressed by it, and I know I've heard from several people that they also appreciated it. The Police Commission meeting is coming up. It's September 16th at 7 p.m., and you know, I want to just be really clear. The police budget is balanced. It's a general fund budget, which means that when they have not been properly funded to support the residents, we have to leverage that general fund. I'm going to also say Chief Carmack has consistently been open, transparent, generous with his time to board members. That does not mean his professionalism and dedication should be treated with any indifference. From my perspective and from concerns expressed to me by other township staff, their time their knowledge, their professionalism is not being respected by everyone on the board. One of the biggest lessons I learned when first coming in was how tirelessly all the department managers really do work. They've got a difficult job. They are public facing, they deal with a lot of issues, they have a lot of knowledge, they are experts in their area. We as board members, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our residents, but we do not have a license to micromanage or treat township staff as though they're not competent, because they are. I've not come across one that isn't. So that's my report for tonight.
Okay, Mark.
Mine's gonna be brief.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The
My apologies.
Zoning Board of Appeals will be meeting on the 23rd of this month. We did change our meeting times to 7 PM to allow not only commissioners, but residents to have plenty of time to get there after work and so forth if they want to attend, but especially for the commissioners who need to attend. We do have, the meeting coming up is regarding the West Shores Golf Course and Miss Dr. Lugsick, her appeal against the variance that was given regarding their secondary structure going up on the north side of their property. Other than that, I am all set.
All right, sir. Derek.
I as well will be brief. DPS meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock in this room. Bridge Commission next week at 6 o'clock on the 17th. Had a number of phone calls from residents asking about hazardous household waste disposal. Wayne County each year sponsors about 4 or 5 different events annually. The next one is October 11th at the Wayne County Community College. You can go on their website and pull up this flyer, which tells you what stuff can be dropped off during the event and what cannot. It is a free of charge event. So if you have anything that you need to get rid of that you can't normally in your normal trash, it's a good day and event to do that. I talked earlier today about Elba Island Road, which is supposed to start on Thursday. I will be getting more information out to the residents tomorrow regarding that as we get more information from the contractor as far as traffic patterns and whatnot. But that project is scheduled to start this week. That concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Hey, Derek.
Yes, sir.
You might not even know the answer to this, but for the household waste collection, I'm thinking about like gasoline. Do they I assume they keep your container. Probably don't have a truck you pour gasoline into, so.
I do not know the answer to that
Okay,
question.
all right.
I apologize.
I'll find it out.
Yeah.
No worries. Thank you.
They used to take the entire container.
Did they?
Yes.
I don't think that they have like a large tote
They
where
don't
they would
mix it.
commingle stuff.
Yeah, no, they don't mix
So.
it. The fumes are too dangerous, probably.
Lord knows what's actually in those.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Hey, Derek, and the Meridian improvement from Wayne County started, so.
Yes, I think the supervisor is going to touch on that on his
Oh,
report.
well, I'm so sorry. I did not know. Okay, I take that back.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I do have a little bit left. I really only have one, and that's it. So there, I got some questions. I had some questions for the county. And what they're doing is, if you just can look at the schedule on the website, most of Meridian Road will be closed from about 5:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. on most of the days. It shows all the way up to September 15th, this project. So please, if you can, use another, what do we have? We have East River and we have West River for a northbound, southbound road. There is going to be some delays there, definitely, all the way through to the Monday, the 15th. I also wanted to let you know, we had some calls on what the situation was with flagmen on the Wayne County Bridge. What they're doing is they're loading up, when they're milling the roads, they're loading up those extra large trucks, and they're very heavy. And I think the county took a page out of what we were doing. They have to only let just those trucks go over that bridge alone. So what was happening is we're getting phone calls, and you'd come up to the Wayne County Bridge after waiting 15, 20 minutes, and nothing would be there but a guy on the side of the road with a flag. No workers, no anything, and people were really puzzled. So what they're doing is they're only allowing those trucks full of the mill that they have taken off of Meridian Road They're really very large trucks, and they gotta be very heavy with that in there. They're only letting those go over the county bridge singularly or one at a time, so. I just wanna explain that, but if you go to grosseal.com, there's a complete, Wayne County news release of the schedule. And it's just your best interest. Try to stay away from Meridian if you can. Come off one of the other roads, some of the side streets you can get through. But they also, on the back page of this, which is on, Brian, this whole thing's on the website, isn't it?
Yep.
Even this detour?
Yes.
Yeah. So there are suggested detours if you live on one of those side streets. It will show you. Best thing is if you can get to West River or East River and out from that way. So that is my report for tonight. And we still have public. Anybody left? Everybody's gone. Jade? No? You do? I'd like to hear it. I think I heard a lot tonight anyway.
She said she has Cheez-Its.
All right.
I don't blame her.
Then I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Was there anything? I'm sorry. It's too late now. Thank you. It's too late. We got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. 9:51. Meeting adjourned.